Guess I should turn the microphone on. We would like to call this meeting to order. This is a special scheduled meeting, City Council work session held at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, June 11th, 2024. All work session items listed are for discussion only. No action can or will be taken. The primary purpose of work session meetings is to provide the City Council with the opportunity for in-depth discussion and study of specific subjects. Public comment is not provided for on the agenda and may be made only as approved by consensus of the council. In appropriate circumstances, a brief presentation may be permitted by a member of the public or another interested party on an agenda item if invited by the mayor or city manager to do so. The mayor may limit or end the time for each presentation. Let's first like to welcome everybody here, and of course all our department heads. And we actually have some citizens here too. We appreciate that. A citizen here in Chambers, so we appreciate that. And also a board member, commission member. First, let's have a Pledge of Allegiance, if we could all stand and do that. And I have asked Kevin Sarkeesian, our city resident, to lead us in that.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kevin. Agenda item number 1, boards and commission discussion. Council will review and discuss the status of the current City of Kingman boards and commission, their roles and responsibilities, meeting frequency, and membership requirements. And I would assume we're turning some time over to our city manager to lead us in this. Mr. Walsh. And once again, I would let everybody know that there is water, snacks. Our city clerk and deputy clerk have provided very well for us, so if anybody needs to stand up and get that. And as always, in these informal work session meetings, you don't need to hold a hand up to be recognized, just chime in.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, just pulling a few things together, and then we will get started. My notes on there either. No, we'll go with it. All right. So today, my notes are not showing up, so I might forget a thing or two, but we'll go for it. Today, we're having a work session on the City of Kingman boards and commissions. The intent of this meeting, and we'll go through, is to review the boards and commissions that we have and to really workshop this, get the council's input on this, see what areas we have to improve, see what things are working well, and get some direction moving forward, how we'd like to improve these boards and commissions. Do want to recognize the number of people that we have serving on these boards and commissions. Many times these are thankless jobs. They come in, they put in a lot of time and effort, and really help guide the direction of the city, help provide good input to the council to act on, and really want to make that recognize all their hard work and the passion and care that they have for the city and their desire to help improve it. So with that, let's see if I can get, there we go. So the agenda today, basically we're going to work through just a brief presentation. We've got a brief PowerPoint to share with you. Really provides kind of a backup of the various boards and commissions that we have. And then following this brief presentation, we'll go into more of a whiteboard type session and really work through thoughts, ideas that council might have, so we can take some notes and prepare some things to bring back to a future council meeting for direction and action. But as far as the agenda goes on the commission, on the presentation, we'll go through statute requirements. Carl's going to give us some information on state statute and legal requirements for boards and commissions. Then we'll go through an individual item on Thank you. We'll go through individually on each board and commission just to provide what their current purpose is, their meeting frequency, and then any vacancies that they might have. Then we'll go into the membership requirements to be on a city commission or board, and then talk a little bit about council liaison assignments and roles and what that entails, and then just some thoughts and considerations as we go through and discuss this in more depth. One thing I would just encourage is, as we go through these various commissions and boards, I would encourage you to consider what you would like to see as an output from each of these commissions. What is the product that you would like to see? What would you like to see coming out of these that would help you in your jobs as council members and mayor and vice mayor? I always, try and keep the end in mind as we go through this. What is it that, what do these bring that helps improve the city, that helps improve your jobs as mayor and council? So just a couple of thoughts and as we jump into this. With that, I will turn a little bit of time over to Carl to provide some legal background for these.
And this is pretty simple. The statutes only reference planning and zoning, and it's not in here. I apologize. When we talked about it, we just forgot to include it. So the statutes only require planning and zoning and board of adjustment, and it's not necessarily required, they mention it. So in the statute, it talks of if a municipal planning commission is created, then you set that by your ordinance and shall be at least 5 members. The council themselves, if you don't have a commission, you can be the planning and zoning commission and do those duties if you choose to do that. So that's very simple to cover. You can also have a hearing officer if you want to do a hearing officer to do some of those. And the hearing officer would just be somebody that you would appoint based on qualifications, training, background, and experience. We're not recommending that. It's just an option if you want to have an option. Again, not telling you to get rid of planning and zoning, but that's there. The second statutory listing is just for the Board of Adjustment. And again, it's one of those things where the council can be the Board of Adjustment if they choose, or they can appoint one. Again, it's 5 to 7 members. And the Board of Adjustment is the one that hears appeals based on all the zoning matters, variances, and those sort of things. And again, you could do a hearing officer to deal with that. That's my very brief statutory requirements. 2, if so choose.
Perfect. Thank you, Carl. So just a quick overview. Currently the city has 10 boards or commissions. Here's a listing of them. You've got the Clean City Commission, Economic Development Advisory Commission, Parks, Aquatics, Recreation, and Golf Commission, Kingman Municipal Airport and Industrial Park Advisory Commission, Transit Advisory Commission, Heritage Preservation Commission, Planning and Zoning Commission, Municipal Utility Commission, Board of Adjustment, Board of Appeals, and then you'll see an asterisk by the 2 that Carl noted as basically mentioned in statute. I would also add that I believe adding with the building codes, adopting of building codes, that does bring the requirement of the Board of Appeals. Basically, the Board of Adjustments, here's your appeals and variances to the zoning ordinance. Your Board of Appeals would hear appeals or variances to the building code. So with that, we'll do a quick dive into each one. The first one we've got here, the Clean City Commission. It was established, and what you'll see in these slides is basically the language that was pulled out of city ordinance on establishing that commission. And then next you'll have the meeting frequency, how often they meet. We put in there too just some stats on how frequently. So initially they met monthly. When they were met monthly, they met 7 out of 12 times. They switched to quarterly, and so far they've held all their meetings. Currently they have 1 vacancy on this commission, and this is under the Public Works Department and Utilities. The Clean City Commission, I think this is one that definitely staff would like some additional help on understanding the purpose and understanding the direction council would like to go on this one. And like I said, once we get through the presentation, we'll get into a deeper dive on direction we'd like to see, or that the council would like to see. But I would just note, with the Clean City Commission, I believe there's some discussion both from a adopt a block type program, which generally I think you'll see when it comes to these types of activities. There's usually a definition or a defined line between public right-of-way and private property. And when we're dealing with public right-of-way, generally that's where you'll see Public Works step in, and you'll see those types of that type of support. When we start looking more at a private property and somebody's property is not being cleaned up, those types of things, we start looking more at a code enforcement and a zoning type standpoint. So just to have that kind of in the back of your mind as far as the Clean City Commission and which direction you'd like to see that go. Let's see, with that one, then we'll move on to the Economic Development and Advisory Commission. The Economic Development and Advisory Commission provides advice and guidance on the creation, implementation, and revisions of the Economic Development Master Plan. They meet, they meet quarterly on the fourth Tuesday of each month. Prior to quarterly meetings, they met three out of the 12 meetings, and that's, I believe that was looking at 2 years prior. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. And the data for all of these is in a spreadsheet in your packet as well.
There are currently no vacancies on this, and this department, or this commission, is under the Economic Development Department. Next, we have the Parks, Aquatics, Recreation, and Golf. And please, if you have any questions, my understanding is I believe many of you have ideas on different directions you'd like to go with these. So I'm just kind of go through this portion briefly, but if you have any questions, please stop me. I'd be happy to answer any questions. But my thought is we'll kind of go through the background and then get to the whiteboard and really get to the meat and potatoes of it. The Parks, Aquatics, and Recreation and Golf Commission was created to provide advice and guidance in the creation, implementation, and revisions of the Parks Master Plan. They review the progress fulfillment of that master plan. They provide input on, parks, golf, the aquatics, and all of that. There are currently no vacancies, and this commission has always met quarterly, and in general, they meet 3 out of the 4 meetings each year. Let's see. Next, we have the Kingman Municipal Airport and Industrial Park Advisory Commission. This commission provides advice and guidance in the creation, implementation, and revisions of the airport master plan and policies that impact the industrial park. They review the city's progress in fulfilling the master plan for the airport and industrial park. They meet on the 3rd Monday of February, May, August, and November, so quarterly on the 3rd Mondays. And monthly, they held about 6 out of the 12 meetings, and then when they switched to quarterly, they have held all their meetings. There are currently no vacancies, and this commission is under the Public Works Airport Division. Next, we have the Transit Advisory Commission. The Transit Advisory Commission is a commission that's under Public Works. They meet and they review, for the most part, they review the CART program, and they review the applications for federal transit annual. So each year we have to submit an application for federal transit. This commission reviews that. They also review route optimization plans and review the non-discriminatory policy that CART has in place. They meet quarterly, and so far it looks like they meet about 1 out of every 4 during that year. There are 2 vacancies on that commission, and this one is also under Public Works and Transit. Next, we have the Heritage Preservation Commission. This one is all about heritage preservation. You can see the long description there. Heritage Preservation Commission has a number of tasks. Basically, they provide recommendations within the zoning ordinance with the zoning ordinance regarding the preservation and restoration of archaeological, historic sites, and properties located in the city for the purpose of preserving the heritage of the city of Kingman. They also recommend the preparation of a comprehensive inventory of historic buildings and landmarks in the city of Kingman, and to increase public awareness of historic value, the value of historic architectural, archaeological, and cultural preservation. So that's among other things. There's a number of them. They meet quarterly on the fourth Tuesday of January, April, July, and October, and they have always met quarterly. This commission has not met since July of 2022. There's currently one vacancy in this commission, and it's under development services. Next is the Planning and Zoning Commission. Planning and Zoning Commission hears the rezones, subdivisions, minor and major land divisions. They meet monthly, and they meet the second Wednesday of each month. On average, they've met 7 out of 12 meetings over the past 2 years. There's currently one vacancy in this commission, and it's under development services. The Municipal Utilities Commission is a commission that reviews, evaluates, and makes recommendations on matters involving exceptions, interpretations, modifications, and appeals to the adopted regulations and system policies. This commission may meet monthly or as needed. You're familiar with this. We recently had a couple of items come before council on exemptions for sewer line connection requirements. So they also look at parcel divisions, providing utilities to parcels that have not been subdivided in that. Let's see, Board of Adjustment, we're getting down to the end here. So Board of Adjustment, this is under Development Services, and the Board of Adjustment, as I mentioned previously, they review variances, requests for variances. They also review appeals to decisions made by zoning staff, and basically look at those zoning ordinance questions. Board of Appeals, similarly, but regarding building division items, building code interpretations. If a developer has a disagreement on the interpretation of the building code, they can seek a relief through an appeal to the Board of Appeals. Now that I've put you all asleep, we'll go through a few more things. Membership requirements. So commissions are, in general, the city's commissions are 7 members. Boards are comprised of 5. Those can go, as Carl mentioned, we can reduce those 7 down to 5. It does not have to be the full 7. That may help, may hurt as far as having a quorum there, finding people to fill those seats and to serve on those commissions. In general, all board and commission members must be residents of Kingman. However, our ordinance does allow for up to 2 non-residents on a commission. That's for all commissions and boards except for the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of Appeals. Those do have to be residents. In order for a non-resident to be on a commission or council, they must be in the greater Kingman area, and the greater Kingman area is defined as basically having a Kingman mailing address. So as long as their mailing address still has Kingman on it, they would be eligible, even though they're outside of the city of Kingman. But again, only 2 members on that. Let's see, a member is appointed for a 4-year term, and then they can serve 2 4-year terms, and then they term out. So that is the membership requirements. And then just a brief touch on council liaison requirements and roles. The city has where the council or the mayor will appoint members of city council to serve as a liaison to the various boards and commissions. And the intent is basically to have a member of council at those meetings to be able to watch the proceedings, be able to report back to council when that item is in front of council
Tim,
as well.
I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
So you said they term out after 2 terms of 4 years, so 8 years. Can they switch councils after that or commissions after that?
I will pass that on to Carl.
The way it's been interpreted is no, they need to take at least a 4-year break. I think the original intent when this was drafted was they got 2 terms period and then they were done. But I think council had looked and thought, well, we're okay with them coming back after 4 years.
And can they, so they take their 8 years, they take a 4-year break. Can they come back to the same one or no?
Any commission they want, or any commission
Okay.
that the council appoints them.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. The liaison, going back to the council liaison, the liaison is a non-voting and does not count towards a quorum requirements. A liaison should not participate in the discussion of the agenda items unless requested to share information that was a result of council decision. And just to note, the liaison is not required by statute. That's a council decision whether or not to have a liaison for the various commissions. And then lastly, just some thoughts and items to consider as we discuss this. Really looking at opportunities are there, not necessarily that we need to, but looking at the question of are there opportunities to reduce or combine commissions? There's the question of the chairperson for those commissions. Is that something that council would like to take responsibility in establishing that chairperson to guide those various commissions, or leave it with those various commissions to appoint their own chairperson? The question of the meeting schedule, do we want to continue to have all of those meetings in the evenings? Do we want to move any of the commissions or boards into a daytime schedule? I believe right now we have, I want to say, 2 meetings that meet, or 2 commissions that meet during the day. The rest are generally at the 5 o'clock schedule. And the only reason I bring that up is we have many staff that our staff mans these meetings, and many of that staff that are basically providing support to these meetings are not salaried staff. So then the question of flexing time out afterwards and those types of things. But there is also, I understand, our commissioners have jobs in that as well, so getting them to come during the day presents a challenge of its own. So just raising the questions to kind of get the temperature in the room, see what direction council would like to go with these. I know there's the question of meeting frequency. Do we want to continue it quarterly? Do we want to increase any of these to monthly? And then look at the number of commissioners on each commission. Do we want to keep it at 7? Do we want to reduce it to 5? And lastly, I would just like to make a comment on as far as staffing. In order to ensure that our open meeting laws are adhered to, that noticing requirements are met, all of those legal issues that we can get in a lot of trouble with if we miss here or there, and in order to maintain uniformity throughout. I'm working with both Carl and Annie in working to ensure that we have legal counsel at each of these commissions, so that the commission working will have somebody there that they can refer to ask those legal questions, and also to act as a parliamentarian through the meeting to make sure that those open meeting laws are adhered to, as well as making sure that our noticing requirements are there, and minutes and action agendas and all of that is met, both from a uniform standpoint, but also from a legal standpoint that they're met. So that is enough of me talking. I'll turn it over to you all, and we can actually dive into some of these. With that, I don't know, do we know how to raise this up? Annie's prepared a number of notepads here that we can start diving in. I'll ask, I guess, Mayor, the pleasure of the council, would you like to go through commission by commission, have discussion, talk about it overall? Really, I'm happy to,
Well, I know
the council
about,
like.
what, was it 2 years ago, Carl? I know by looking at your notes, back in June of 2 years ago, in '22. We made some changes, and of course, we have noticed the need for some more adjustments on those boards, and so, of course, that's why we're addressing this again. I think who's ever would start, what are some of the concerns? I mean, Councilor Saley?
Yeah,
Let's start with you.
I have a list, thank you. I'd kind of like to talk about the general
Okay.
changes first and then dive into the commissions, if that's okay. Some of my concerns, one is the term limits, that a commissioner can only serve 2 terms. This has been a problem on planning and zoning, where you want your commissioners to have experience. And I know their chairperson, she's getting ready to term out, and then you have a lot of new people sitting on that commission that haven't been to the different conferences that she's been to, and there's some concern about, you know, if we're terming these people out, A, what's the point of that? B, we've got commissions that don't have enough people, and then C, you're getting rid of people with experience. So I'd like to see us get rid of that 2-term max and take it back to the way it was before, which is it took a majority of council vote to override, you know, to have them go on past 2 terms.
Carl, how'd that work? Is it a majority or a supermajority or?
I think we had supermajority.
I think so.
And I think the discussion was, there were folks that had been camping on a commission for a while that, council felt it was good to have that shuffle. But you can do that universally or per commission, however you guys want. I can draft whatever council desires, so.
How many terms could a commissioner do with, what was the old one?
The old way, they could go forever, as long as council kept I believe it was like a supermajority, if I recall correctly.
They were shorter terms. I will just add that. We extended it to a 4-year term. So before, they were 2- and 3-year terms.
They're a mix.
I would be agreeable to a supermajority. I think that council should have the say if we find that somebody is staying on a commission and we need to, you know, bring new life into that commission and we have some people waiting to go onto a commission and we have somebody that camps out, as you said. I would like to see that be a council decision of a supermajority, so I'd be agreeable to that.
I can see pros and cons. Because as you just mentioned, I guess the word is camp out. But on the same token too, does the council, and it came up in discussion, Tim, you mentioned it, as far as do we appoint the chair or is it voted, do we let it among there? Because that one person could rule that commission for a long time.
But they're
Maybe-
voted in. I
They
mean,
are.
the commission votes for them,
But maybe
so-
we need new blood on there too. So I can see the pro for having 4-year terms. We changed it because it was 2 and 3. We extended it. That's 8 years total. I mean, even on city council, I think it's important that we have new blood constantly. So anyway, like I said, I could see either way.
Well, and you have your commission voting for your chair. I would not like to see council get involved in that decision. That's up to that body. They know how well they work together. They know who's got the strongest personality to keep the meeting moving along and orderly. So I would not like to see council be involved in that decision. I think that should stay at the commission level.
Yep.
I too like the supermajority idea. I really dislike the idea of losing investment, especially if you're sending people to conferences and having them learn all this experience and training. One thing I would like to see is a standardization that goes across all the commissions. So not, one isn't 2-year, one isn't 3-year, Or, but I mean, if that's a necessity, also please teach me as we go through this process of why those need to be the way they are. But I think a standardized methodology across the board would be very nice and clean.
And I believe we have, sorry,
No, go ahead.
I believe we do have it, is it standardized right now, Carl? All are 4-year terms.
Right.
Good.
That's what I thought, it's standardized, that we did accomplish that at the last change.
Yeah, it was confusing before with this weird 2
2 and
3
3,
year.
yes.
I'm not sure how that happened a long, long time ago.
Okay.
So then explain to me what happens when you have a commission member resign, like midterm. Do you follow the same rules as per se a council member that goes ahead? I mean, does the commission appoint and then they finish out that term and then?
As we've done, is the council appoints to fill the remainder of whatever term is left. So we just have specific, these seats are
Okay.
I think we've moved it to every 2 years, so it's, an even year just to make it a little more consistent so we know what's happening. So if the council has to fill a position, it's for the remainder of that term.
Okay.
Smiley?
I would think that's the way it should be, fill the remainder of the term.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right, and of course, the vacancies filled just like they applied, just like if they were a new person applying for that commission, if there were a vacancy already on that commission. Correct. Okay.
Okay, one of the next thing I have is the way we are choosing the commissioners. I hate the new way that we're doing it, and I'd like to go back to the old way where we get all the applications, the whole council looks at the applications, we ask people to come up and speak, and then we vote, nominate and vote who we want to put on the commission.
And I
What's
disagree
the
with.
current way?
The current way is the staff person on that commission, the mayor, the city manager, they get the application and they score it. I don't really like the scoring sheet. I don't think it's, I just don't like the scoring sheet. And then that one person's put forward, instead of it being a whole council decision, you just have one person that moves forward and you may not get to see the other applicants.
And see, I disagree with that because, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that the council liaison to the commission also gets to score.
Yeah,
So
did I miss that? Yeah, the liaison, the mayor, the city manager, and the staff person.
Yeah. And I think that we are the liaisons. I think that we can be trusted to filter out the best candidate. I don't think that putting that through the whole process of the council, I disagree with that. I think it should still stay with the city or with the liaison from the council. So, I wouldn't want to tell you who to put on your commission and,
Right, but it's only our commission for 1 year. And these commissions are supposed to be the city council's commission. So the staff person and the city manager having a say is now making it not a council decision. And while sure, I trust this group, you might get another council member that maybe they're just putting their friends, on something like P&Z that's really important. And then the rest of your council doesn't see everybody else that applied. And so that's when it doesn't become our decision of who we want on the commissions. It just is a couple people's choice to put who they want on there. So that's my concern with not seeing all the applicants and not getting a say.
Is that something that can easily happen, or is that like a hypothetical, far-fetched idea?
That's how
How likely is?
that's how we
is that
used to do
scenario?
it, Jengus.
No, but the favoritism. I'm asking how likely is favoritism to occur in that system?
I think we did it also. Didn't we make that change to streamline it just a little bit, the process? But I mean, you have a valid argument,
The
Counselor.
previous city manager didn't like some of the people that we chose, and he wanted a say.
Okay.
And so he changed it.
Okay,
So I do agree with you that we should see all the applicants and we should be able to score all the applicants. I don't like the weeding out and then we have an applicant. So I don't like that process, but I do feel it is good to see all the applicants and be able to score them all. So that would eliminate that concern of a city manager being favored, favoring a particular applicant. And if you're having a few different people look at those applicants, then you're going to get some different suggestions. So
So are you saying the whole council scores them in advance?
no, I still think it should stay with the council liaison and the city manager but we should see all of the applicants.
But in the packet that we get, the rest of the council should be able to see what that person has submitted. Is that their application before it comes to council? In other words, when we vote on it to put them onto council, onto that commission. Are
The
you
council could
Well,
see all the
you could-
applicants.
you could see all the
We were promised
applicants.
that that's how it was going to be, and then I don't
Yes,
think it was.
after the
Is that what you?
fact, correct?
Mayor, if I might add?
Yes.
So we do supply all of the applications that we have. There are often times that there is just one that goes
Yes.
to the liaison, the mayor, the manager, and the staff. So I believe that's what Vice Mayor is speaking to, is that she wants to make sure all applications on file are going to that group for review, and they are at this time.
Of course, that is a problem we face, is that we do not have a lot of people applying for a lot of the commissions. There's a couple of them that are popular commissions that people want to be on, but the rest of them oftentimes don't have any applicants or people interested in serving on those commissions.
Well, and we used to get a lot more applicants for our commissions, where we would see multiple people applying to be on them. And I think that's maybe part of some of these things that we need to address.
Well, but also, I think society, as we can see in other facts of life, that there's a lot more apathy too, unfortunately, in participating in things. And so we're fighting that too. So I'm not sure we could blame it all just to saying that, we're not getting applications for this, or we are getting applications for that. That's a social fact that's coming into play.
Mr. Mayor, if I
Yes.
may, just to, if I can clarify with Vice Mayor, so is your intent that all applications would just go to the four, or would you be looking for all applications, once they're scored by that group, then would go before the council? Just so I'm kind of following.
I think that if you're the liaison to that commission, then that's, to streamline things, you should be helping make that decision. I think it's more time consuming for it to go out to council, and I feel like we could get more of a split vote as far as who we are selecting. So I just think that we should trust who the mayor appoints to the commissions to do the commission work, just like we trust the people that are going to be on the commission to do the commission's work.
And that was just for clarification. I had misunderstood until Annie had clarified her point. I was just trying to understand the point, so thank you.
What if we got to see all the applications up front, but if I'm P and Z and you see something going on with that application, you could come to me, discuss it before it goes out to be appointed.
I'd be agreeable to that.
Does that work?
You're still providing information to help make a decision. So to your point, if you see something that, is of concern, or, I see Carl
But if
grab
you,
his.
but yeah, you can't do that, right? And then if there is a problem, that person's still going to appoint their friend or whatever.
Your proposal would be great if it was only one other person, because at this point, you're already going to have the mayor, the liaison. If you talk to one person because they have some input, you're probably fine. But once you start adding another person, then you have an open meeting law violation. That kind of defeats the whole purpose.
I just had one other thing I wanted to put out there, because we receive all of the applications, is that when we, the council, realigned those terms to staggering 4-year terms, that's when we started to see a decrease, because we're not having vacancies come along as often. So that is just something else to consider, is now they're on there for longer, and it extended some of the people that were already on there, so we could line them up to those even number years, alternating 4-year terms. Similar how we do with council, half of them go off 1 year, half of them go off, and that way we always have a good chunk on there, but that is something that we would have noticed in our office as well.
Actually, you bring up a valid point. Sometimes you have a commission member, they're excited to get on a commission, and then they realize, oh, this is not what I wanted to do. But they feel the responsibility of staying on there until they finish their term because they realize all the process it went through. So that would be an argument to go back to the old way of 2 and 3 year. But I mean, you just see what I'm saying though, because sometimes it's not a fit for somebody and they don't want to serve. So what do we do there? Tim?
May I say something?
Genghis, yes.
Sean.
Oh, I mean, Sean, I'm sorry.
Well, hello, everyone. You know, there's a few council members that have been on there quite a few years, and being fairly new to the council, I have no problem with the way we've been doing for the commissions. I personally sit down, interview everyone that comes in, and I grade them, and we're elected officials, and hopefully our citizens trust us to make the right decision, which I think we've done a good job, but how can we make it more attractive for our citizens to be part of a commission? Is that the problem we're having?
Well, and that's one of my concerns, but I was
Yeah.
going to let Counselor Staley get through her list first. Go ahead. The concern for me is I feel like the feedback I'm getting from the citizens is when they join a commission, they want to be active. They want to do things. They want to be a part of something of, you know, helping to create policies that go up to the council or organize events or be a part of economic development. And prior, I feel like it was just a commission was somewhere you went to hear a bunch of department reports. And I'm sure it was frustrating because they want to get in and they want to do things. And we have active people that want to volunteer their time and want to help the city in that manner. So wasting their time and looking, you know, just hearing department report after department report, I feel like that was not what they thought they signed up for. So that's one of my huge concerns is that how do we make these commissions active and how do we get people engaged? And the more we have people engaged, I feel like the more they're going to want to stay longer, they're going to participate, and we're going to get that good cross-section of opinions and suggestions up to the council from the commissions.
If I may, Vice Mayor, I love that point, and I think that goes back to my question of, you know, what do you want to see as output from these commissions? I think if we have that product that we're looking for, so, you know, planning and zoning is an easy one. They make recommendations on rezones, on subdivisions, and that comes before council. They look at it, they focus on the issues, they do a deep dive in it, they make their recommendation, it comes before council, and that provides you all the background to be able to make a good decision on that. I think the question comes up with some of these is, okay, what is that product that they're producing? What is the recommendation for? You know, are we looking for new policies? Are we looking for recommendations on changing something? You know, is parks, do we want to see recommendations on, you know, what we should be doing with this park, or what should we, you know, what trails should we be adding? Is economic development, you know, what incentives do we want to provide? And I think that's really kind of the question for council is, you know, as we look at these individual commissions, what is that output that would be beneficial to city council? Because, yeah, it really is, I believe it's department reports we can put on the website. We don't need to waste their time, staff time, and all of that to put those on the website. But as far as getting that input, I believe the purpose of having these commissions is to seek that community input. So it's a matter of, okay, what input do we need to get from each of these commissions? And as we understand that, I think we can better tailor these commissions to be more productive, to be more rewarding for our commissioners, but then also to provide, you know, valuable information to the council.
Well, and I would just like to see agendas that are more collaborative, more discussion, you know, they can, like you said, they can have those department reports in a very condensed version for like maybe a one-page fact sheet or something of the information they want to convey. But I would like to see more discussion, and as a liaison, you know, we can't participate, but I want to see that. I want to see some things that the commissioners are passionate about. You know, why did you get on this commission? What are your expectations? And so, and maybe that happens at an orientation in the beginning where we kind of set the expectation. We've talked about this, you know, having some kind of training and orientation. But yeah, I would like to see less of the mundane department reports and more activity, action, thought-provoking agenda items where there's great discussion and people have an opportunity to have input. I hope you got all that.
Yes. Well, they want to feel needed. And what they're doing is making a difference. And they want to have some kind of responsibility, which means, that means we need to give them, if that's the way we want to go, is to give them some kind of power, or they feel that responsibility. And that they have a part in the decision process. But that's where,
Well, and some
how
of the
much do you want to
commissions,
give them, how much do you not want to give them?
well, I mean, look at P and Z. I mean, we get recommendations from P and Z every meeting, and that's the purpose of P and Z. They're making important decisions on behalf of our community. So I would like to see recommendations coming out of commissions to council for projects or things that, you know, we need to do workshops on, or, you know, things like that. It needs to come from that level up, and instead of from the top level down.
A good example on P and Z, this 500-foot rule on the sewers. We've overridden them several times, and I know that it upsets some of the commissioners. But if we truly need to change that, then shouldn't P and Z have input on it too, on how far? Because 500 foot in today's world is unrealistic. And I just, you know, if the commissions, I know that some of them believe we're wrong to override them on that, but it's just a matter of economics. And if they think that it should be 200 foot or 300 foot or whatever it should be, we should hear that from that commission. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there because I know that's a sticking point with some of them. Because I've sat in several of those commission meetings just in the audience, both before and after we made a decision to override them. And I don't want to, I want the commission to help us, but we also got to help them. If we're constantly making decisions that override them, then there's something wrong with the process. And we need to revisit that.
Or we need to have a joint meeting
Yeah.
with them to talk about
I
it.
agree, but you said P and Z, it's actually muck.
It's what?
Muck, municipal utilities,
Okay.
Commission, not P and Z. I think staff is already looking at that, correct?
We are.
But it
Yes.
comes through P and Z, doesn't it?
No,
Before it comes to
that
us?
No,
Okay.
No,
right?
yeah. That it would be, so for the 500-foot rule, those exemptions go before a municipal utilities commission.
Okay.
They make a recommendation, but yeah. But no, your point is valid, yeah. If we have an issue that we're constantly overriding, we need to look at that issue.
Yeah, we need to
So,
look at that
Yeah,
a lot closer than what we have in the
Yeah.
past.
Right, and of course, now fortunately, for example, on that this last city council, where those two, we granted both of those.
Yeah.
And so we also sided with the commission, because the commission voted to override them too.
Yeah.
Because like you said, it's frustrating when we override what the commission,
Which we had done the two
We have too.
previous ones
We-
before
we
these
have
two
also.
came up.
That's right.
And I suspect that's why we got the result we got from the,
and if I may, I want to be careful with this. Council has the final say in these decisions. So, and you all have information that possibly the commission may not have. So I know at times dealing with this in many different scenarios. At times, commission does get frustrated, they make recommendations, and then if the council overrides those recommendations, sometimes there's frustration with that. But I think at the end of the day, you all are the elected officials. You all are the ones that have to answer to your constituents. So as I mentioned at the beginning, I appreciate the hard work and all the time and effort that the commissioners put into it. But at the end of the day, it's your name that's going on that decision. So I do understand what you're saying and not wanting to override what the recommendations are. But at the end of the day, I believe that that's council's decision.
Yes,
And
I agree,
Yeah.
100%.
Well, and I think that, I guess what I'm really asking is maybe some of these workshops that we're having, some of these topics can be discussed at the commission level. And they could have good discussion, and then we can hear recommendations or what comes of their discussion. I mean, we're talking about 519 Beal, I mean, that could be an EDAC conversation. And talk about, what do they see and it would be nice to have even more information and even more voices be heard so that we have a good representation. And I feel if we do that and we can accomplish that where they're more active, we will see more people wanting to put in their time because they really feel like they're making a difference.
it's good.
I would add on to that in order to empower the commissions in this way, they need to be more involved in creating their agendas. Right now, at least on the commissions I've served on, agendas are solely created by staff. And I know some commission members have talked to me about they don't even know how to get an item on an agenda to talk about. So we need to empower the commission to make their agenda. And I think we also maybe should change the way we do their meetings. Like,
Can I also add on that? Oh, sorry.
if we could maybe give them a business meeting, end it, and then open up a workshop meeting where, we've agendized that they're going to discuss the 500-foot, or they're going to discuss a project for economic development, where it's not an agendized item on a regular business meeting, it's a workshop. They can talk a little bit more freely and plan, and then they can actually accomplish something because we're giving them the tools to have that planning step before they move forward. Okay, I'm finished.
Mayor, may I say something?
Yeah, Sean, and well, Changus, were you going to say something first?
Oh, that's fine.
Or was that Sean that started?
No,
saying
I
that?
was going to say, just to add on to everyone else's recommendation, for example, with Muck, having everyone, they know about when they have discussions about these variances, and we've discussed how the system feels broken, and I feel like their insights and how we could potentially fix that would be something that I would love to hear from them as well in that discussion. So I was just adding on to that.
Thanks, Changus. Sean, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to put this as lightly as I can. Every citizen is basically an owner of Kingman. Just like I do with the Moose Lodge, and I'm only using this as an example. I do a new member orientation every 2 months, and they know that they are owners of that lodge. Our citizens need to know they're owners of this city. Is there any way, Tim, that we could look at maybe doing some type of overall orientation for people that want to get involved? I know we have that little side project for our citizens. I'm talking more on a bigger level where the citizens can come in, ask questions, and see exactly what's going on and choose where they want to go, and making them feel like they're a valuable part of the community. That's all I got.
So, Councilman Savage, I know you're aware of the Citizens Academy. It sounds like you're suggesting something separate than that, different than that?
Yes, I totally am. We have our open meetings, of course, with the citizens coming in, but not something, I think, to educate them on the purpose of serving the city, wanting to be part of the city, part of the commissions. Education is always best. You can educate the citizens as best as we can, and I think we may be falling short of that.
No, we'd be happy to look into that and see what we can do.
So, Sean, what if we did, what if we just added a module to the Citizens Academy that discussed commissions and the structure of commissions and what the different commissions do?
I totally agree with that.
Okay. Because that's our biggest pool of people is that Citizens Academy, because they're going to be the most well-rounded individuals as far as education on the city and what the city does and how they can be a part of that. So if we just add a module, I think that would help.
We can do that.
Do you want to talk about combining commissions
We can do that.
Before we go there,
before we go into each one? Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to echo what Councilmember Staley and the Vice Mayor had said. I'd had some commissioners hit me up, and they were disappointed as well because they felt like all they were getting was reports when they went to these meetings, and then they got pushed to quarterly, and it's like, we're on the economic development, you know, what are we doing every quarter? We need to
Yeah.
be meeting every month to get our, you know, whatever they want to get out to us, their product or their ideas. So I really think we need to go through these commissions, and I've kind of done my own little vote here on, you know, some of them do need to go back to monthly. You know, there's some that I think can stay quarterly, but, you know, we can ask the directors what they think of it. But economic development and the airport, I think those ones are very important to us, that we definitely need those back monthly.
Yeah, agreed.
I would agree with that too, because by the time they're getting their information,
Yeah.
if they have a quorum and if they can have a meeting, it's stale data.
Yeah.
So I agree.
I agree with that also.
I too agree.
Well, we actually, on the airport commission, we had a member of the airport, 2 or 3 meetings ago, he came and said he would like to meet more on the, as a commission, because they had not been meeting. So, yeah.
I've
So
heard from them as well.
I have too.
They do not like this schedule.
So,
We can do that. And really, Annie and I both are taking a lot of notes here, and while we won't be taking any action today, basically what we'll be doing is we'll be working to amend the ordinance in order to make these changes that are being suggested. So this, all the items that are discussed here will, any of the changes that need to be made will come back to council for a vote. So we'll have another, basically right now, as you all know, this is a work session, so we're working through all the items. But as it appears that we have consensus on items, we'll be bringing those back. And even items that may not have consensus, we'll bring them back at a council meeting that can then receive a vote on, so.
And I would like to, as we have commission meetings coming up, I would like something on their agenda to where they're having some discussion about their expectations, so that before we vote, we have a clear understanding what is the will of our commissioners at this moment in time. And we can add that to all the other information that you're going to provide to us.
Will do.
Counselor
And-
Saley,
Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Smiley.
Well, we're on the subject of combining or eliminating. I've had the Heritage Commission since I've been on here. We have not had a meeting since I've been on here. I'm not sure it's in the right place. I'm not sure that it couldn't be combined with economic development. More so, it's closely associated with economic development. And I don't, normally, I would say that's one of the most important commissions that we have. But in this city, I don't know why, but we haven't had a meeting in the whole time I've been on council.
Well, has a meeting even been called lately?
Yeah,
Because that's,
they put them on the agenda, and then it goes canceled due to lack of agenda items.
oh, and so who's making those agenda items? Because I've met two of the commissioners that have never gotten to have a meeting, and they're like, we have lots of ideas, we want to meet, how come we're never meeting? And then we just, in a couple weeks is the state Arizona Preservation Conference, and we should be getting our commissioners to that conference so that they can come back with new ideas, what they can do to help us preserve our history. You know, if we want to be the heart of Route 66, we should make preservation a priority.
I agree. The
Yeah.
only thing, like I said, I've been on almost
Right.
2 years and we haven't.
And I think the problem is not the commission. I think the problem is that they're not allowed to meet so that they can start talking about, what they want to do for historic preservation. It's just easy, it's just easy to go, we don't really need to have one this quarter, and they don't even get the opportunity to serve. And we do have some really neat people on that commission right now that aren't even being utilized. And I think that's really unfair. I mean, before I got rid of historic preservation, I'd want to give them a chance, few meetings.
Mike, did you have any, not to put you on the spot, did you have any input on that? As far as the Historic Preservation Committee, I believe that falls under planning and zoning. Mike to the mic.
My understanding that it's the Historic Preservation Commission is part of the zoning, it's in the zoning code, the formation of that commission. I know has been some discussion about us not having any meetings because there hasn't been any items for them to discuss. It hasn't met for, 2 years, I believe? And so certainly long before I came on board. Some of the discussion I've also heard is a possibility of combining it with the Planning Commission, have the Planning Commission be the Historic Preservation Commission because it's part of the zoning code, and then the Planning Commission meets more regularly and can discuss those kinds of items. The question then becomes, what do you do with the commissioners that have been appointed to the Historic Preservation Commission that hasn't met for quite some time, and have some input that they would want to be able to provide to whomever the decision makers are going to be. But I think because of the reason that they haven't met, for whatever reason that may be for lack of items to discuss or just lack of interest, however that may have happened, I would recommend that maybe we consider combining it with the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that way they can have more regular meetings. So that's my thoughts about it.
So if you look at their purpose, they do have other responsibilities outside of P&Z. I don't think they should be combined. And I think they should meet regularly in order to do item number, so they have number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6 is B&Z, and then number 7 is other functions. So they should be meeting to do the historic preservation piece outside of P&Z. And if you turned it over to P&Z, there would be no historic preservation work. It would just be planning and zoning items that related to historic buildings.
Yeah, well, my main point was just get it off at dead center.
Yeah,
Because right now, nothing's happening.
right.
And whether you combine it or whether you keep it, it doesn't matter to me. I just would like to see something happen with it.
That would be great.
Well, maybe the commissioners can meet with Tim and Mike and talk about an agenda that would get them talking, and then go from that point forward. They can meet, and then their future agendas will be created based off of what comes out of that first agenda.
Sure.
Yeah, so,
Like they should have a meeting probably in July.
If I may interject, my experience in other communities, other cities that I've worked in that had historic districts and have that type of a commission, a historic preservation district or historic district, generally what I've experienced is in that kind of a situation is those commissions have oversight of those historic areas within the city and act in the same manner as a planning and zoning commission for permits or land use issues, any kind of decisions that are made that are going to happen within that area of the city that's either going to be preserved or modified or beautified in some way, that those commissioners have some authority to be able to make decisions on how that happens. So that may be something that we might want to consider here.
So them acting as a they're hyper-focused on the heritage preservation, and they're able to make decisions based off of that area within the city as if they were on P and Z.
Yes, it would serve and act in a similar manner as a planning and zoning
P&Z,
commission
okay.
on those matters that are going to be affecting that historic part of the city. So
Okay.
if you clearly define the area that wants to be preserved historically, and then have a body like that that could be decision makers to maybe they make recommendations to P&Z, who ultimately makes another recommendation to the city council, but at least have them have some serious input and on how that preservation is going to occur and how that part of the city is going to be developed or maintained.
I could support that. That would serve purpose for our commissioners. And you know, they're obviously on the Heritage Preservation Commission because that's either their area of expertise or that's where they want to be, and make a difference within that niche in our town. So I don't know how the rest of the council feels, but.
And I agree. The only reason I even brought this up was to get it off of dead center. Because it's, right now, they don't know how to get something on the agenda. They have no agenda. They have ideas, but they can't even present them because there's no forum for them to do that. And it's just, we need to either get it off dead center or eliminate it, one of the two.
No, I think we're moving in that direction, so thanks for
Yeah.
bringing that up.
Because, I mean, to me, heritage preservation is one of the most important commissions in any city that's trying to preserve the old part of town.
Yeah.
And yet here, it's been inactive for 2 years.
So Tim, could their next meeting in July be the annual training that the commissions get on open meeting laws, and then close that meeting out and open up a workshop type item where, you know, you can be there, we can get, you know, staff in there, and we can sort of guide the commission to go through what their responsibilities are, and then to start creating future agendas and some goals and what do they want to work on. And that would get them off
Yeah.
of being
Yeah, we can do that.
no meetings because they don't have agenda items. Let's give them the power to look at what their responsibilities are and go forward.
That would jumpstart it. That
Yeah.
definitely would.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
So depending on how fast you can get something like that put together.
That was kind of where I was going at.
If I may ask, I'm just looking here at one of the responsibilities or one of the tasks for the Historic Preservation Committee, it says to recommend the preparation of a comprehensive inventory of historic buildings and landmarks in the city of Kingman. Has that been done? Do we have that inventory? Have we done that study to be able to
They used to
establish?
work on that. When I was the liaison years ago, they were working on getting those inventories, meeting with the owners, helping people get on getting their property designated as being a historic property. So the city should have that, because that's one of the things the commission always worked
And
on.
if we don't have that, we should work on creating that. Maybe that's one of the first tasks that this Historic Preservation Committee can have, is to start identifying those properties that make up that historic district that they want to preserve.
Or finding the ones that are already there,
Or-
locating that,
defining
yeah.
those-
And the
Defining those
list,
that
yeah.
are already
Where they
there.
are,
Yeah.
right.
Yes, just
Yeah.
defining those that are already there and then expanding that as they may deem would be beneficial to the city.
Absolutely.
Annie just informed me that we do have that information, so we can build on that, yeah.
Then I think that would be a good starting point, is to take that inventory, look at what it is, where it is, and then think about what we can do to be able to refine it and more clearly define it, and then think about how we want to preserve it.
Mike, since we have you in the hot seat here, has there been anything, in your tenure for, as our acting manager in that department, Have you seen anything come into planning and zoning that really should have been addressed by this committee, but because for one reason or another, it didn't get addressed by historic preservation, instead it just got pushed to regular planning and zoning? I don't remember anything coming into city council from that commission, but that's why I'm just wondering.
I don't recall having seen anything that came across for a planning and zoning type of an application. We've had building permits on some properties there that may or may not have, been better served by being scrutinized by a committee like that. But I've heard, there's been some inquiries about some properties within the historic area that are going to be rezoned, perhaps. There's some discussion about how they could be rezoned. We've got kind of a unique zoning district there in the historic area that sometimes that doesn't really require any kind of an action like that would normally go to P&Z. It's mostly building permit type activity when they choose to do that.
Okay.
But I think we need to, if we want to really make the Historic Preservation Committee or Commission serve a better purpose for the city, we need to think about what their responsibilities and what their activities should be.
Well, and I think like you and Councilor Saley and others have said already, that with this list, open their eyes again, re-educate them on what buildings, what this historic, some of these historic buildings are, identify them. And a lot of people don't know, and so they're not going to act on it because they don't know.
Well, I'll say that about myself. I've been here for almost 7 months now.
Right.
And I still don't know what entails our historic preservation area. And like I said, I just discovered that we do have that inventory. I'm guessing it's still, in its early stages. But I think that we need to refine that and understand it more clearly so that we know how to move forward with that.
Well, I appreciate your input. Thanks. Councilor Saley, you have more?
I thought that maybe we should talk about combining MUC and planning and zoning. Because if you look at how many meetings, if you look at the list, how many meetings have been had, haven't been held, canceled, whatever, there is room on planning and zoning to add MUC. And it just seems like it's a similar type of decision-making process. And maybe by combining these two, now you've got one less meeting to go to.
But if you do notice, I'm just pointing this out. I don't have any feeling one way or the other. But MUC is assigned to engineering because all that stuff has to do with the engineering side of it, whereas planning and zoning is more developmental services. So maybe that's why, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was going to add that on MUC, you have more industry-type people on the board. You have contractors, engineers, developers.
I hadn't noticed that. I guess I was just looking at where could we combine so that it's more manageable. The commissions are more manageable now that, you're suggesting that we have a clerk and have someone from Carl's office, Carl or Amy there. So if there's a way to combine some of them, especially if P&Z's not having a meeting every month, and there's room to put in MUC in that place. But I didn't realize that they were industry experts, but I've never served on MUC, to be honest with you.
Mike Garman, could you come on up to the mic? And you've got two issues, and I'll let Mike elaborate a little bit more on what exactly MUC does and how they go through it. But planning and zoning, you're established by, and Carl, I'm going to let Carl correct me too on this, but planning and zoning is established by statute and by the council as far as looking at land use, those types of issues. I'm just trying to think.
I guess what I was thinking is you have, you already have, both of these commissions are looking at statutes, they're looking at zoning, they're looking at, all these different things to make decisions on whether or not this project's going to proceed, or, are they going to get their water meter, all those kind of things. It just seems like it's a very technical position, and I thought that maybe they could do both, but if they can't, that's no big deal. I just thought it was a way to combine two.
And we can look into it. I mean, there's not and kind of where I'm going, there's not a statutory requirement that we have muck. I think muck, and to Councilman Walker's point, they're individuals that are more familiar with that industry and those types of workings, whereas your planning and zoning is geared more towards your zoning and land use. But I mean, it's something we can look at and see. Go ahead, Mike.
Tim, if I may, MUC has specifically to do with our utility regulations.
Right, yeah, I understand.
So I don't really see that there's a nexus with planning and zoning. Our utility regs are confined to activities that take place in the city right of way, whereas planning and zoning has to do with the zoning regulations, the zoning ordinances, that kind of thing. They're really two separate, I guess, areas of expertise. And so I don't see that there's a good way to combine them.
We can look into it and see if there's a way.
If there's a will of everybody else, it's no big deal. I was just looking, like I said, I was just looking to see what commissions could possibly be combined so that we have less demand on staff.
That would be good.
There was also the Board of Appeals and the Board of Adjustment, and whether or not those could somehow also be combined. And I don't even know if we need all of those because they never meet, right? Board of Appeals, last time, 2019.
And generally, I believe those two, and I'm not sure, Carl can speak on whether they can be combined. That might be an opportunity, but as far as, those are more as needed. So
the hard thing is you have commissioners, they're sitting on a commission that have never met. And then they don't even know if they're really on it anymore. I've heard that before. Well, I used to be on this. I don't know if I'm still on there. And then it's,
and generally, unfortunately, the nature of the beast with those two is just that if we don't have appeals for a number of years, we don't pull them in to have a meeting, but then when we do, sometimes we'll have to appoint new members in order to be able to hear that appeal.
Correct.
But
It kind of goes back to the muck and planning and zoning thing, because the Board of Appeals, again, is very specific to the building code, and you have people who are knowledgeable in the building code, and when you have the Board of Adjustment, it's going to be looking for variances of the zoning code, so they're very disparate. I guess we could look.
if you're involved in the building industry, wouldn't you be aware of the zoning codes well enough? Because if you think about it, people who are on planning and zoning usually do not know about planning and zoning until they've spent time on the commission, and that could be the same.
No,
in this
that's another
case.
one we can look at and see if we can put together.
Any other counselors? Any, Changus and Sean? Anything else that you want to bring forward?
No, my end is pretty clear. I mean, everyone's hit the nail on the head. Efficiency and standardization. My only other thing is I would like to see meetings, at least with the option to do it monthly, so that we don't get hung up waiting for 3 months or 2 months for that quarterly meeting. But besides that, everything else has been said that I was thinking.
I concur.
So if it
Yes.
pleases the mayor and council, what I'd like to do, but I'm open to however the council would like to go with this, I'd like to almost, if we could look at each individual commission and look at the desired outcome or the desired output from those commissions, just to kind of give us an idea of the direction council would like to go. That will help us in tweaking tweaking the ordinance in order to meet those needs. So with that, we'll start at the top. We've got the Clean City Commission. And I believe, Rob, I'll let you go into that. Explain basically what the purpose of the Clean City Commission and what they put out, or what they do.
So just, I guess, just with a little bit of history, when I first came to work for the city, Clean City was in planning and zoning. And at that time, Ed from Solid Waste was kind of a liaison to the commission. And basically, I would say the emphasis was more on community cleanups, adopt a block. Once the recycling program started up, they did a lot of education on that. They did a lot of outreach as far as handing out shopping bags at the grocery stores and such. And then it was, the decision was made to switch it out to Public Works. I think with in the new commissioners we have are great and they're very active. We really haven't canceled any meetings. I think in discussions I've had with them, some of them would like to focus more on code enforcement. And that's fine, but Public Works doesn't have a direct role in code enforcement. So basically, as it stands right now, we're kind of serving as this middleman in the process where we're in talking with the commissioners. They're giving us complaints. We're forwarding those on to Development Services, previously PD, and getting updates from them and reporting back. So I don't know. I guess I would see us maintaining a role on the commission, but if the primary focus is going to be code enforcement, then with the new emphasis on code enforcement and Development Services and some of the staffing up that's happening in that department that way, maybe they should be the primary liaison, and we would keep that role as far as some of the other initiatives with Adopt a Block or the new roving dumpster kind of program. So that would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate that. And I think this is, as I mentioned, it would be good to get the council's thoughts on this and see which direction we'd like to go with this Clean City Commission. If it is more of an adopt a block type program, or maybe a community cleanup and identifying which areas that we'd like to, have our bring a roll off and have the community do that cleanup and kind of scheduling those things, or identifying, various projects that the city can support or those types of things. I think then we're looking probably staying with Public Works. If we're looking at more of a private property or a zoning infraction type committee, then, as Rob mentioned, it would probably be something that we'd want to look at under Planning and Zoning Commission. I would caution with that is we want to be careful, and I think if we go that route, we'd want to be careful in defining the role. Code enforcement, you meet a lot of resistance as a code enforcement officer. So, you want to make sure that they have the proper training, which our code enforcement officers, they attend those, the various trainings on de-escalation and, how to approach those types of people that have violations that may not want you there. Because for the most part, if you have a violation, you don't want somebody there telling you you have a violation. So I'd want to be careful with the commission and not putting them in a dangerous situation where they're approaching or confronting maybe somebody that has a violation. So I think there's avenues to go, definitely in code enforcement, there's opportunities, to prioritize projects. We've got 2 code enforcement officers that cover the whole city. There's more violations than they'll ever be able to attack. But a matter of, as they identify these properties and even identify properties that we'd want to take to court to receive an abatement judgment, that they could that could be an opportunity to have them prioritize those cases and, you know, the ones that we wanted to push forward. So I think we have options here on which direction we want to go with this, but really like to get council's input.
So I have a question, and it's probably for you, Carl. Is there a reason why we can't have a hybrid of two departments? I understand that, you know, we have the adopt a block, we're doing the citywide cleanups, and that's one department. We have the code enforcement, that's another department. Is there a reason why we can't co-liaison between departments? And then my second question is, can code enforcement be a part of the agenda? Like, can code enforcement do a report, or can code enforcement attend a meeting and be a part of the agenda where the commissioners give direction to code enforcement as to what their wishes are for the commission?
Sure. As leading the prosecutorial office to handle this, I would recommend no, that you shouldn't have Clean City Commission involved in code enforcement, because there's due process rights that we need to comply with. When it gets to my office, we go to court and handle it that way. If there's priorities that need to be assigned, I think that can be guided by council by making a statement of an overarching policy of where you want to go. But I would caution having direct involvement, directing code enforcement staff to take action.
Well,
But if you want to
and
do
so
that, we
maybe
will
it's
do
not
that.
so maybe it's not as harsh as directing code enforcement to take action. To me, as even a citizen, when I'm driving up down Stockton Hill Road and I see properties that are in blight, or, you know, they've got a huge weed issue, you know, to me, in my mind, that would be beautification and Clean City Commission and all those things. So I'm just asking for maybe code enforcement to play a role. I mean, I know that you guys are kind of liaisoning, or you're being the middleman for code enforcement. But if somebody came to a Clean City Commission and identified properties that they would like to see, you know, abated, or, you know, hey, this business has had weeds, you know, growing 3 feet tall and it needs to be taken care of. We need to have a place for those, like an open place for those people to go where they know that there will be action being taken. And so if that's currently happening, I apologize, I'm missing the mark, but I can see where this commission is tough because it's a little bit of this and a little bit of that.
So can I just jump in here?
Please.
I really appreciate your comments. I'm currently the liaison for the Clean City, and they still want to be under Public Works, and Keelan does a great job being their staff person and working with them. They still do the community cleanup. They were at First Friday. They had an information booth. They go to Dig It Garden events. They are very, very active. So they should stay doing the Public Works piece of cleanups. We've just given them a budget to do the quarterly cleanups. But because we were not seeing any action happening in code enforcement, what the commission has started doing is they have started reporting properties, because we don't do any code enforcement unless somebody's reported it. So they're reporting and they're asking for follow-up to make sure that something's happening on those cases. And what we had talked about is that Keelan would be the staff person on this, and he would work with Sean Osterman to have Sean come in and give that report that you're asking for. And that gives that accountability that we want this cleaned up, and we want to hear from staff that those steps are being taken. And if it makes it to Carl's office, then Carl could come to the commission meeting and give an update. Those properties are in court, or those properties are getting cleaned up, or they've been liened. But until we see better code enforcement, I don't want to take this piece away from that commission.
And sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I appreciate the conversation, and I think, and listening to the history, it's making a little more sense. I believe, so code enforcement just recently came under development services within last 6 months. Within the last 6 months, code enforcement just recently came under planning and zoning. And
And as a council, we've been asking for improvements on code enforcement for a long time. So, and we have not seen them. And so this was sort of a way of putting in an accountability
into
piece
that.
through this commission, and that's what they're passionate about.
And just to add on to that, just slightly, the public needs to know that that we're working on I mean, you know, they don't know what they don't know. So I feel like to put it out into a meeting and to give, you know, a report on properties that are being worked on, properties that are, you know, in the court system, properties that have already been liened, you know, I feel like that is our accountability to the citizens for what's going on with these properties.
And I couldn't agree more. Go ahead.
Well, we all want a nicer looking city, and that's what Clean City Commission oftentimes was focusing on and has been focusing on. That's one thing that I always enjoyed about Clean City Commission in the past. I don't know if they've done it recently, but they would recognize properties where the owner did clean them up
They do, they still do that. Yeah.
and recognize them. And for example, the Profit building, the old Whataburger building, amazing building. What has happened there? I was sad to hear that Profit, of course, as a side note.
But they did get an award from the Clean City
Right.
Commission for that.
And
cleanup,
that's
yeah.
great. I mean, that's what that commission should be doing, Carl.
Right.
Could I just respond? Reporting is great. There had been some outreach from some folks on that commission or some applicants on that commission that wanted to direct my staff and folks how to do, which is why I have some of that reluctance. There was someone who actually wanted to go out and physically approach folks, and I would just
Well, and
caution
I think
that.
I think that's an education. Here's the process.
Right.
Here's how we're going to move through the process, and here's where the accountability comes in for people within the process that it's getting done. So, yeah,
We're good
absolutely.
with reporting, 100%.
Yeah, okay.
And I think if we all knew that you could make a report and something would happen with that property, then you wouldn't have commissioners that would want to go do it themselves. They would be able to trust the process.
And I appreciate that, and definitely we are working that direction. I will say, just kind of as an update, so like I mentioned, the code enforcement just recently moved under development services and planning and zoning. And recently, I know you drive down Stockton Hill, you see a ton of weeds.
Yeah.
And I will say that code enforcement has been diligent on that. Just looking, I got a report yesterday, I'm working through a few things and then planning on sending it out to council as far as an update, but they've already issued 22 notices, or hand-delivered 22 notices to properties along Stockton Hill for those weeds. So
Great.
basically, my direction on that is you know, those main corridors, as you mentioned, generally we're complaint-based because, like I said, we've got so many issues that two staff couldn't handle all the zoning violations that are out there. So generally, we approach it from a complaint-driven process. However, on our major corridors, and with the weed issues that we're seeing, we're being proactive on those main corridors. So they've worked through Stockton Hill, and they're issuing those notices. They will be working Andy Devine and Airway as well to make sure that any of those violations are out there. So we are getting that ball rolling, and you will start seeing more results with that. So I think that will help assure those concerns that you have. So,
Good.
but I don't know. I think Mike
Mayor?
wanted to.
Yes, Sean.
I'm sorry. Tim.
Go ahead, Sean.
May I say something, please? We're all council members. We are around the city all the time. We see everything. We are elected officials. I went to a doctor's appointment about 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I asked him, are they poor? He's like, what do you mean? I go, your landscaping looks like crap. It totally did. So we as council members should be calling out business owners that treat their properties like doo-doo, so to speak. I have no problem doing with that. I hope none of you do, but there's stuff that we as council members can expedite a little bit of things by just saying, hey, tell your owner that a city council member said your place looks like crap. Does that make sense? No? Am I muted?
Well, no, but Sean, but we've got to be careful letting just anybody, I mean, even commission members do that. It has to, so I think that's why the city manager is correct that we need to
Wait, I'm
turn
not
that over to
talking
code
about,
enforcement. The most important thing is you turn it over to code enforcement. Let the city manager know.
right, no, but I'm just saying, as a public servant, it's in our best interest to look out for the best of the city. And I have no problem calling somebody out saying, this doesn't look right. We all should have that right. And then we can go to the city manager and commissions and all that stuff. But as a city council member, I think it carries more weight hearing from us saying, that's not looking good, get it taken care of, without being threatening, without being overbearing. It frustrates me, and I'm sure it frustrates all of you to see some of the stuff that's going on around the city, but I have no problem saying something to the business owners. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
So I think the reporting back to the commission will help show that some things are being done. So not only to council, but coming full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, what I think we agreed on in our retreat was that Sean Osterman would attend every Clean City Commission meeting, and he would give updates on specific properties, the code enforcement, what success they're having, those kind of things.
We'll do. We'll make sure that happens. So with that, as far as, so I think it sounds like we want to maintain basically the community cleanups, the adoptive blocks with Clean City Commission, and then really not so much have them delve in too much into the code enforcement, but more just be able to provide a report on, this is the number of cases we're working on. Carl, can we get into specifics on if we have, more egregious properties? Can he provide updates on those, or is that
I mean, it's all a public record. I think, yeah, but
Public, yeah.
sometimes you want to be delicate on how you approach some of it. But yeah, I think we can definitely provide some information.
basically a matter of, this property is in violation, we've issued notice of violation, we're working through that process, and they've got this many days to clean it up, and then we'll be going on to the next step. So yeah, we can definitely provide those reports.
And an education on the process and what it takes to move it through the process and how the accountability is
key.
going to happen. Yes.
Because it doesn't go very fast. So understanding the reason why it doesn't go fast, basically, we're dealing with people's private property. We have to give them every opportunity to clean it up themselves. So yeah, there's always a frustration that it's not cleaned up already, so.
And they've been good with the education piece. I know, I think they worked with Rob on creating a flyer about what area of your property is yours to clean up, like behind your block wall, and those have been very helpful. They've asked me if they can use the digital sign for their cleanups, so I want to allow them to keep doing the good work they do. I think they could help with these quarterly cleanups by, going door to door and handing out the info about the cleanup and where the dumpster will be and what they can put in there. And they are so willing to volunteer and give their time. It's really, it's a great commission, I think.
Good. Very good. Anything else on Clean City Commission? All right, let's move on. Okay. Okay. Oh, so thank you, Annie. So just one question as far as we go through these, I think we have an understanding on purpose. So meeting frequency, are we still good quarterly on the Clean City Commission? Are we still good on, I think that was the main one, right? As far as
I would personally
number.
just, so I had my cleanup initiative in May, and I was going to mention it at council, but I wanted to present it to Clean City Commission first, and then come to find out it's a quarterly meeting, and I have to wait till July to bring it up. So I would personally like to see it once a month, but I would digress to anyone who has more input or experience with it.
They would like to go to once a month. And I think that they have plenty of work to do. We could keep
Do we
them
want to
busy.
get their input
I have talked to them. They actually tried, when I first got on the commission,
to go monthly?
go monthly.
Okay.
And then I think they were trying to compromise it every other month, so they're busy.
And then I think that goes back then to the output. You know, as far as the report on what we're working on, as far as, you know, code enforcement cases, we can provide that at any and all the meetings. But as far as what we're wanting to get out of them, if we're looking for a plan as far as, you know, clean city, you know, what neighborhoods we want to clean up, I guess in order to make their time as productive as possible, I'm just wanting to make sure that we have enough work, enough output from them that we're requesting to be able to justify it monthly, or you know, if there's enough for them to be able to do it monthly and there's enough reporting coming back to council, I'm happy to do that. I just want to pose that question.
Well, and you brought up earlier, you brought up staff, because now basically you're proposing that we have 3 staff members there, someone legal, and of course the staff and the department head, correct?
So we would definitely, that department will staff those meetings, and I think Rob can probably comment on how many of his staff attend the meeting, but in addition to that, we'd be looking at having at least someone from Carl's office and then somebody from Annie's office to either at least, and Annie's office would be looking at to help them as far as meeting the same uniformity throughout. I prefer to have someone from Annie's office at all of them, but if it's a matter of just training, then we can get to that point too, to where we're
Okay.
training their.
I mean, obviously being sensitive to, as you said, staff time.
Mhm.
So that being the case, I know they would like to go monthly, they're meeting quarterly, why don't we go every other month and see how that works and see if they produce?
Well,
They-
in looking at when the commission met monthly, they only held 7 out of 12 meetings, but when they went to quarterly, they've held all their meetings, which to me, it's like, that's 4 meetings, right? So, if they went every other month, then maybe that would bring that 7 up, and it would help them get more opportunity to get work done.
Be more productive, yeah.
I think they probably could do it every other, I mean, because now they're going to be planning these quarterly cleanups, so they couldn't meet quarterly, or they'd never be able to get those done on time. I also think when they only met 7, it might have been when they didn't have enough commissioners or they didn't have items. But every meeting I've gone to, they have quite a few things they're working on. So we could let them go every other, maybe keep it open that if, you know, once we kind of allow them to do all these things they want to do, maybe they would need monthly down the road. So that's fine.
Can I put a thought out there real quick?
Sure.
Since we've pretty much hit the reset button on the city in terms of your city manager and filling all these empty spots, and we've got this meeting to basically revitalize all the commissions and reorganize them, what if we start ambitious with once a month, see if they can fill it, and revisit it and adjust it accordingly? Is that something that you guys are open to?
I think it's better to go every other, and then, you know, and then it's easier to go to the monthly rather than to move it out and go every other. It's
Right.
easier to back it down and go monthly than
We're
to,
putting the staff
Okay.
in shock, Genghis.
yeah.
Right. I think let's move it up the next notch, which would be every other
Let's
month,
try it
6
every other
times.
month, And if they can produce, then let's look at it.
And that holds true on all commissions, of what we're talking about, because once again, we're affecting city staff too.
And so if they're going every other, any of the commissions, and they have enough to go every meeting, then that commission needs to put that on an agenda, vote on it, and it needs to go to the council. It should not be stopped by staff. It should be a commission decision that goes up to the council. Okay?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, and definitely, the recommendations coming from these commissions will all come before council. So, no, as they make recommendations, ultimately, council has the final say in all of that. So, as they make recommendations, we'll take those recommendations to council and let council have that decision.
Just added, how late do we want to stay? You want to get it stay till as long as everybody's fine with that? Okay. Oh, I know, because we have 7 more commissions that we need to talk about and then 2 boards. Correct, and we've sort of talked about those already in some ways, so.
Get my microphone on here. As we're going through this, if there's any, so a couple of different items, and I apologize, we'll get this a little bit cleaner as we move along. So right now, we're moving to every other month for Clean City Commission. Right now, they're meeting at 5 o'clock. Do we want to maintain that 5 o'clock time? Do we want to move it into the day? Is that something that we want to approach the commissions with and get their input on?
Can I jump in real fast?
Please.
If I'm going to be at every meeting, I don't want to be at every meeting at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to make a suggestion that we move it to 4 and start at 4, but I also, I mean, we do have volunteers to consider, so we've got volunteers and we've got paid staff, so keeping that in mind, we need to hear from the commission, so it can be agendized and ask them. I completely understand where you're coming from, Carl.
And that would hold true for across the board for all of them, right?
We'll have, at least to run the meeting, we'll have at least the director will be there, we'll have, or his designee will be there. We'll have somebody from the attorney's office, we'll have somebody clerking the meeting, and then any staff that's presenting items.
May I make a suggestion?
Hold on, Sean.
If the attorney, having the attorney there is going to be a deal breaker, because I don't want to lose our volunteers because they work all day and now they can't come to a 4 o'clock meeting. But if it's a deal breaker, do we really have to have someone from Carl's office there for Clean City, for economic development? I mean, I can see why you'd want somebody for these more technical P&Z, but if they're just talking about cleaning up, like doing a cleanup or doing, whatever, like, do they really need to have Carl? Could the liaison serve as sort of a, what would be the word for it? Like the person that would just make sure they stay on task? Parliamentarian.
I agree, by the way, Councilor Saley, because all this time we've not, has something happened where we have to have legal there? Because up to this time, my wife started on Clean City Commission for 6 years, a long time ago, of course, 30 years ago, but I don't think I ever came across anything where they had to have legal there.
And I agree. I mean, I think, the commission I'm liaison on, the department runs the parliamentary part, make sure everybody's on task with the agenda, make sure they don't talk outside the scope of the agendized item. I think staff is very capable and they're already there. They already plan to be there, so.
And definitely, we can look at that and work with Carl's office and see how exactly that works best. The idea and the intent is really just to make sure that open meeting laws are kept, that we're uniform across the board with it. I will say, as far as timing on commissions, I know it's been, for the most part, I think most all of the commissions are always held at night, and I get that we have a lot of volunteers that are working through the day and getting there. I know, coming from the county, I think almost all of our commissions were during the day. So I know it is possible to staff those commissions as well when they're being held through the day too. So I think it would just be a change and a shift in looking at it. So it's really up to council on which direction you'd like to go with it. To Carl's point, and not just Carl's point, but looking at the staff that has to man that and the overtime or the flex time that's required as part of it as well. So just a consideration to put out there and look at.
And then Sean, I'm sorry, you wanted to comment.
Yes, I did. Thank you very much, Mayor. I'm thinking, with everyone's busy schedule, if we give them a half a sandwich and a bag of chips and do it at lunchtime, with whatever commissions, mine are meeting quarterly. They should be meeting more often, definitely as far as economic development as well as the airport, because there's a lot of stuff going there, but that's speaking for myself. Having them at night, I just don't think is conducive to people's lives. So if we could find a time, Tim, to maybe do something like that at lunchtime and maybe add more instead of quarterly, if you get what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
We've really kind of got to, our growth is not going to stop. It's going to continue. And the more often they meet and the more often they know what they're doing and talking about what they want to do is better for the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
I still think we should poll our commissioners, so
Yeah, we can definitely
let's
do that.
agendize all the commissions with their wishes for times and of their meetings. We only have a small pool of volunteers and we need to keep them, so. And attract more, so.
Yeah. And no, definitely, we can do that and see. I think you have a pool for certain times. If you have a different time, that may open up a separate pool as well. So just something to look at. All right. Bennett, thank you. Economic Development and Advisory Commission, can you speak to this for us?
Appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate all the comments that have come out. And I believe that the commissions are important and that it is vital for them to have a say. And I think that, in the past, Vice Mayor, you were correct. A lot of it's reporting and things like that. Since kind of taking the helm and hearing some of that from the commissioners and the chair, we actually started to, in addition to everything we were doing, implement some things. And our commission, I feel, is very active, and I think if you were to poll them today, they would say the same thing. For instance, some of the stuff you guys had mentioned in regards to the commission being asked for agenda items, we do that every time. We send that out, and then we get that feedback back, and we add that to our agenda. In addition, we meet with our chair to go through the agenda and make sure that everything's being addressed that they feel. And then that gets sent back out to the commission as a reminder, is there anything else that you guys would like to add to the agenda? So we've kind of implemented that. We've minimized those reports that have been given in the past. We've scaled them down to one or two major items that we felt might have happened since the last meeting. But in addition to that, we also send our commissioners weekly reports that you guys get. That goes out to all our commissioners. And then also, as items are voted on in council and decided, we send that out to the commission so they know what's being decided in case they're not here on those evenings. They're very active in attending conferences with us, and we invite them. We have been putting agenda items, and they've been making decisions, voting on some items that you guys have been seeing come before you. So like some recent ones have been the tourism strategy update that went to them and it went to council. The Leaning Shield, that went to them, that went to council. The Waving Cowboy went to them, was tabled, went back to them, went to council. So that went multiple back and forth before decisions were made. We have an ASU planning study currently that was recommended by one of the commissioners that we're working on and was voted on by the commission. We implemented things like the Mojave County Fair and attending that and having them involved in that process. So they're out in the community with us talking about economic development. One of the things they wanted to do was implement, and this was their idea, to do guest speakers. And so we agendized that, and we bring in guest speakers like the Arizona Commerce Authority and outside sources. you know, we do have Councilmember Savage currently, you know, attends. Councilman Ward was attending, you know, most recently, so he was able to kind of get a feel for that. We've met quarterly, and when we have items that the commission wants to deal with, we'll call that special meeting, and we'll actually get together and, you know, so we can bring that back to the council. So we've done that at times. I will say that in the past, when we have met monthly, it was at times hard to get a quorum, you know, and also they weren't as active. So obviously going back to the point of, you know, maybe there's not as much activity, they don't feel as much of a need. So, you know, so we've tried to address a lot of that stuff. I think we've done well. I think an idea would be, like you said, take it to the commission. If they feel, you know, hey, we need to meet more, let's agendize that and let's ask, hey, you know, where do you guys want to be? What do you feel? You know, it's not my decision. You know, they're the ones that are going to be meeting and doing that. We do meet at lunch time. We can Zoom call, and we do get people that come in via Zoom. I think that's worked well. So that's kind of an update in its entirety of where it is today. So there might be some thoughts of, you know, it's probably been a while since Vice Mayor was on that as a board liaison, but you know, over the last year, I think we've made some positive changes.
Well, and I thank you for that because, yes, it's done a whole 360 since I was the liaison on that commission. So I appreciate all the effort. I think some of our other commissions could probably take some of these suggestions and start implementing them. So yeah, I'm very happy to hear all the interaction that you're having on your commission. So thank you for that.
Can I ask a quick question, Bennett? You mentioned that Smiley was there, and I just don't know how it is across all the commissions. Do liaisons get involved in discussion in everyone's commissions, or is every commission different? Some do, some don't. Or what's the general decorum for liaisons with commissions?
I guess I'll jump in. The liaison is not a member of the commission, so you should really be there for observation, or if the commission has questions of maybe some council action or something like that, then obviously the liaison can relay that. And also the liaison can relay commission actions at the council meeting. So I think the intent there is just to be kind of that communication bridge, but not a participant.
And that's tough to do because oftentimes you want, as a liaison, you want to participate. So, but no, you shouldn't. You're right, absolutely right, Carl.
Thanks, Carl.
I think the only thing I would have on this commission is to, yes, agendize how often they want to meet, make sure that the meeting time's working for everybody. And other than that, it sounds like you're on the right track and it's working for your commission. I wouldn't have any suggestions on how to improve on that process.
I apologize, I wasn't here. Did we talk about meeting more? More frequent meetings?
They're going to take it back and agendize it and ask their commission.
I think we're good. Tim?
All right. And then, perfect, I think we got that one covered. Let's go to Mike Mearsman. We've got Parks, Aquatic Recreation, and Golf.
Okay, basically our commission is to guide us and make sure we're sticking to what our master plan says we're supposed to do. And we get information from them to bring back to council about big capital projects like playgrounds, where we're going to invest in playgrounds. We'll look at we'll give them some options to look at, and then they'll give us information. And we give them a very detailed written report, and then our park superintendent, our golf course superintendent, golf professional, they'll give brief updates of that report. And then at that time, the commission members will ask them questions or bring up things that they want on the agenda at that time. They'll give us ideas of things that they've seen at playgrounds at other places and things like that. And so that's kind of what we do in a nutshell, I guess. And I don't know, our reports, our verbal reports, I guess, could possibly be a little shorter, but I think that my staff does a pretty good job of keeping them short enough. But like I said, we don't go in detail with the whole report. They don't read the whole report, the written report that they give them. So I guess that's pretty much it in a nutshell for that. And they do give us guidance on all the stuff that we want and the major stuff to bring to council. And I guess that's about all I would say about our department and our commission.
Mike, what have you felt from your members of that commission as far as their meeting quarterly? Do you think that accomplishes what they want to do, or do they want to meet a little more often? What's sort of the intent there?
I think it does, and we did. As a matter of fact, we used to have a golf commission and a parks commission, and we merged those back several years ago now. I don't. The years have a way of getting away from me, but it's been a long time ago that we merged those, and I think quarterly is good. I mean, I haven't heard any of them say that they think they're missing out on stuff, and we could have special meetings if we need it, but we've never. I don't think we've had any yet since we've gone to quarterly, and so. I mean, we went to quarterly basically when we merged the two commissions. So, and we can obviously ask them what they think and see what they think. But we were just having a challenge getting a quorum often enough. So I think you're going to create, if you're going to go every other month, you're going to have less quorums, I think, too. So.
Well, and that's why I think it's very important to ask the commissioners, because if they say that they'd like to meet every other month, then you've heard from them and you'll expect a quorum most most meetings. So, but if they say, hey, we're good with a quarterly and we're moving along and we have a quorum, then I just think we just need to give more autonomy to them to make some of the decisions on how often they meet, what time they meet, and what's on their agenda. So do you do that with your commission? You said you do work with them on agendizing? On
the agendas, yeah.
Okay.
We give them a chance at the end of the meeting to make recommendations too, and we'd like the council does. And like I said, when we are giving each director or each superintendent level is giving their reports, they'll ask for more information on something.
Right.
And then we'll put that on the agenda. Example is one of the commission members would like more information on the budget. So once this budget is passed, we'll get all of our budgets for them to look at too. So
okay.
We've done that. We've gone over rules at the golf course. They've voted on all the rules at the golf course, what we should have, what we shouldn't have. So, I think I haven't heard a lot of negative about that they're not busy enough, they're not doing enough. And we'll even take them one month, we'll do a tour of all of our parks and take them on the tour. And really, we've had a lot of comments from them that they appreciate the reports that we give. They said they didn't realize what all our department does and the challenges that we're facing. So I think for them to hear about vandalism, and we had the police department come and give a report, and I just think giving them more reports like that is a good idea as well, I think. So
Yeah, it's a very interactive commission. I enjoy being a part of it, so thank you.
I have a question for Mike. Since you merged those two commissions, how has that worked out? Because I mean, now you have non-golfers helping set rules or.
Well, we always try to balance the commission. We do have a golfer on the commission, one golfer, and there's other people, Karen Fogg, who's our liaison, her husband golfed, and she's knowledgeable about the golf course too. And there's several on there that are knowledgeable about the golf course. And
No major issues.
No major issues. I mean,
Not
people.
being represented.
No, I don't think.
That was a big step.
That was the worry.
To bring them into one, so. Okay.
Yeah, and obviously that I'm passionate about golf, and so I said, I watch closely about what's going on there and what the needs of the people are, and I listen closely about what the golfers want too. So I mean, I think I haven't really had any complaints about it, and so I think it's worked pretty well actually.
Any other questions for Mike? Thanks, Mike. Or Tim?
Real quick, I know recently, I think within the last year, we've placed trails under them, under parks. Do we want to, this is a real big decision here, do we want to add trails to parks, aquatics, recreation, and golf? So does it,
It'll be called,
Yeah.
it'll be called Part D.
Parkadiki. Take a,
Carl's the one who thought of the park, so.
we'll give Carl some homework to come up with a new. There you go, recreation.
It is important, it's under recreation, right. You know, I think we've tried to really balance it out and get people on the commission that are interested in all the different areas, so I think
Yeah.
that's important, so.
And is there anything that council would like to see as far as a product coming out of the commission to you? Anything more that you're not seeing, anything that you would like to see? Look good?
I do agree with adding trails though, because I mean, in the namesake, because trails are becoming so much more prominent in our community, people need to know that there is a commission where trails are represented. So, yeah.
We can do that.
Well, so put T after P then, P-T-A-R-G, you know, like Parma, yeah, anyway.
Mike,
Yeah.
Target,
will you give me a call when you got a chance?
sure.
That's all I got to say. We got some ideas. I've been talking with Tim and everything. I think we got some good ideas for the golf course out there. He did give me numbers as far as the cart rentals and all that good stuff. And so I was kind of disseminating that. I'm not too worried about all that stuff, but I think there's so much more we could do with that golf course. But I would love a call, please.
All right. Thank you.
And then I just had a quick question. The Christmas tree lighting, is that with the commission or is that under your department?
Oh, the
Chamber.
Radio tower.
the locomotive park lighting, yes, that's under my department.
No, the tower on top of the mountain,
No, on
like-
Radar Hill, no, that's not part of
Radar
ours.
Hill.
No.
That's Unisource.
Okay. That's Unisource. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. That brings us to the Airport and Industrial Park Advisory Commission. We've got Doug here.
And good evening, council members. The Airport Industrial Park was created right after the city resumed or restated control over the airport and the associated industrial park. They've been very valuable in providing guidance, feedback, representing the pilot community. Also, at the same time, educating the pilot community why we are taking certain approaches in capital improvements, maintenance, or having certain policy changes. Through some of the items that they've done over the past several years, since I've taken over, has been providing recommendations for our 5-year capital improvements. They've also provided a little bit of guidance on the pilot community's thought when it regards to the rate changes in our hangars and our tie-down facilities. They've often also used our commission as a platform to get out there to the community, special events that have occurred. Some have been the Young Eagles, where our younger citizens could fly for free with the Experimental Aircraft Association. And then also the Aviation Heritage Center of Kingman has used that to announce the 100th anniversary or 100th birthday of Major Ferris, who was a B-17 pilot. That generation's going to be pretty much lost forever. So the commission has provided those benefits for our pilot community and for the airport. And then even they will go a little bit further with providing a letter, which is most recently given to our senators and representatives regarding the city stance on wanting the 790-acre land release. So my opinion, it's very valuable all around for the airport and the industrial park.
I'll bring it up. I know on the reports, for example, I know, well, we had a member of that commission recently report to city council that they would, just in a public comment, that they would like to meet more often. What are your feelings on that, Doug? I mean, and obviously, we want to leave it up to the commission too, but we want your feedback too.
Yeah, I do think we need to leave that up to the commission, let them determine it. I do see a lot of value meeting a little bit more often. But I think what we need to do is actually speak to the citizens that are volunteering their time and let them determine how often they wish to visit.
Well, in reviewing track history, it says when the commission met, they met 6 out of 12 times. So that tells you right away that maybe we could go to every other month then to start with. Anyway, but once again, the most important thing is to meet with the commission and let those members decide, give us the feedback what they would like to do.
Yes, sir, I do believe that.
Okay.
Doug, can I quickly ask, do you have any vacancies, and who are some of your or what's represented with your members?
We currently have no vacancies. We currently have one individual that is a aviation business owner and also is a pilot at the airport. We have 3 general aviation pilots that are also members of the commission. We do have one individual that works inside the industrial park and another one, as I want to say, kind of at large throughout the city.
What a great mix. Thank you.
Okay. Tim?
Next one is the Transit Advisory Commission.
Oh, good evening. So the Transit Advisory Commission, that's a requirement of our grant. We're required to have a committee that meets, of local stakeholders that meets quarterly, minimal quarterly, but, and they serve as an advisory to us on the operations of the system, to make sure that, to just ensure that we're meeting the needs of the community and as it changes. So with different things, whether it be planning any service changes, any fare changes, anything like that. So they serve as an advisory to recommend to you.
So it's my understanding, the struggle to keep people and gain a quorum to meet is an ever-present challenge.
It is an ever-present challenge. It's really difficult. So I think for us, it's really important that we go back to a 5-member committee. We currently have 2 vacancies. And so we have to have 4 present, and we don't always get that. So we've had to miss the last 3. We haven't met since July.
And have you just haven't had the applicants?
We recently got one other applicant.
Okay.
But, which brought us to 5, but we still can't seem to get 4 to
So you
be
feel
there.
pretty confident if we were to change the amount, are we
I
able
do.
to do that, Carl? So that would help your commission?
Yeah, that's fine. They just want to make sure that we have a committee or a commission that meets quarterly and that it's comprised of local stakeholders.
Well, I know this commission's struggling. I talked to some of your commission members, and it's really frustrating to be on a
it's-
commission that never meets.
It's extremely
So,
frustrating. It's
yeah.
extremely frustrating. So one of the things that we've had on our agenda for the last several meetings was to change the date of the meeting. And that way, if we can change the date, because it conflicts with different events. Our chairperson, she has an annual thing every year that falls on that second Monday of the quarter. And then there's also a holiday that falls on that date. There is now our transit advisory, or sorry, our ASTA and ADOT conference. They changed that date. It interferes with that. So we're looking at changing the date.
So if you can't get a quorum, you can't have a meeting.
We
If you
can't
have
get
a
a quorum.
meeting, you can't vote on an agenda item,
Yes,
right?
ma'am,
So I would
absolutely.
be very much in favor, if that's going to help your commission to go to 5, that we do
No,
that.
yeah, and I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to get this July meeting. Our next meeting's in July. And then that'll be followed with a public meeting with, for our transit center site selection. So hopefully that will help get people to make sure that they can be there.
Carl, if they're having issues meeting because of conflicts, I mean, if they select, she could pull the board and see what day works for them.
Yeah, I definitely think
commission, I'm
we
sorry.
can poll because you're not really making a legal decision. We're trying to sort things out to get them to
See when they can.
Yeah, I tried to, for our April meeting, I did try to reschedule that, but I couldn't seem to get a date that could work for everybody. So we
And
weren't able
just
to.
just for knowledge, when you go down to 5, how many do you need for a quorum? And if you have 7 members, what would happen to 2 of them?
We'll need 3, and we only have 5 members right now. We wouldn't be getting rid of any new members.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And Carl, can we put that on for the next council meeting, so we make it happen immediately?
Do we?
I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a
That would-
big deal,
We're at.
because we only have 5.
So what we're talking about today, Carl can correct me if I'm wrong, is going to require an ordinance change. Ordinance changes go into effect 30 days unless there's
Okay.
an emergency clause in it. But I don't believe that the membership, it just says maybe 5 or 7. So I'm not sure if that has to require the ordinance change.
Yeah, I believe the ordinance says 7 for commissions and 5 for boards. So, but I don't think that we'll have a problem. I'm confident that we'll be able to get a quorum for the July meeting, so it should be a non-issue for this next meeting.
So
Well-
if we can agendize it, and make a decision, we realize it won't take effect for 30 days, correct? So, but we can still start the,
Yeah, I'm just trying to, if I can get everything drafted, I mean, it's not that big of a draft, and I don't know when
Are you looking at me because the next agenda closed last Wednesday?
I'd have to get permission to do that, but sure, we can sort something.
The other thing to take into account is that every time we change an ordinance like this, the entire thing has to be republicized, which is several pages. It's very expensive. Not that that's a deterrent, but fiscally responsibly, it would make more sense to make all of your changes and then publish. Obviously, you have the discretion to do as you choose, but that is also something to take into consideration when changing the ordinance for this.
okay. We're trying.
Yeah, we're trying to take care of you.
Yeah, did you have any other questions for me? All right, thank you.
Sherry. All right, so on that one, we'll be looking to reduce it from 7 to 5.
All the legalese.
Welcome to the government.
Welcome to government.
We're here to help, yeah. Next is our Heritage Preservation Commission. I believe we spoke a little bit about this one, but Mike, if you want to.
I mean, maybe to save time, we just let them have their workshop and let them decide how they want to move forward. I mean, this description is good and it encompasses a lot of important responsibilities. I don't know that we need to hash this out again, if that's okay with you or if everybody else. Yeah.
Very good.
Well, and I think the common theme for all the commissions is please go back and agendize what the wishes are for frequency of meetings, time of meetings. I think that's a common theme that everybody can take away from
And
that.
I definitely think what we can do is when we rewrite the code, because right now it says they meet quarterly, and what we can do is, as determined by the commission and approved by council. That way, whatever,
Can we do the same thing with membership too? So that way it solves that problem. Don't have to do
the membership would be a little tougher. But it would be the same time I do it, because that's part of the same section. So I can figure out how we do that.
So it gives us an open end a little more freedom.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I should have the mic on.
that might be a little more, that might be difficult, but.
See what you can dance.
But I'll see what I can do.
Thanks,
The
Carl.
meetings is easy.
I think you're off the hook, Mike. Don't go far. Next, we got the Planning and Zoning Commission.
There again, the Planning and Zoning Commission, from the time that I've been here, we've probably missed at least 3 meetings, either for lack of a quorum, not a lack of a quorum, lack of items to be able to take to the agenda, A lot of that had to do with the backlog that we had and the difficulties we had with the shortage of staff. I think we've got beyond that now, so for the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, we had one scheduled for tomorrow night that we had to cancel primarily because of some noticing issues that we had. And a member of the public that pointed out that we didn't notice properly for some of the items that we had at our last P&Z meeting. So we're going to have to rehear those, and we're going to do that at the July meeting. So the two items that we're going to hear tomorrow night, we've also postponed to the July meeting. So I think moving forward, now that we've got a new planner on staff, we'll start seeing more items being completed in a timely manner and be able to get them agendized so that we'll have at least some business to be able to take care of on a regular basis at the planning and zoning meetings. I anticipate that we're going to be having monthly meetings and be able to have at least one or two items or more as often as we possibly can.
So this is, I have concerns as we move forward with development and growth, and I just want to make sure that we're meeting often enough that we're not holding up projects. So do you see once a month being, and I know you're talking about, you know, quorums and not having enough agenda items. I feel like you're going to move stuff out of that department and get them on the agenda. Do you think that the one meeting is going to be sufficient?
I think for the time being, the one meeting a month will suffice. And then I would be hopeful and optimistic that we can possibly consider doing 2 meetings a month if we have enough business, enough applications that we can process more efficiently in a more timely manner and to get them moving forward so that we don't load up an agenda once a month and be able to hear more items a couple of times a month. I'm more accustomed to P&Z meetings being held twice a month. That's
Right.
This is the first city I've only had them be done once a month.
And that's what I'm hopeful of, that when you do the new rewrite, that you're going to leave that as deemed by the commission.
Right, and we can
Okay.
definitely do that, but right now, it actually says monthly or as needed. So
Okay.
they can meet more if they
Okay.
need to. They're-
Okay.
they are-
I wanted to make sure that for this particular commission, you have the autonomy to have another meeting and we don't get caught in this hamster wheel of we got to do this and we got to do that. So I want to make sure that this commission has that autonomy to meet as often as they need to.
And as Carl
Okay.
pointed out, we do have the ability to hold a special meeting if need be. So if we did have items that weren't going to be agendized for a regular meeting, we could go ahead and schedule a special meeting. We have the ability within the code to be able to do that, I believe.
Okay. I just don't want to hold up development in
No,
progress.
And
So,
I echo your thoughts about that. We want to be able to get our projects moving forward as promptly as we can, as efficiently as we can, and get our development community served in a correct and proper manner.
okay.
One of the other things I did want to bring up, because it was brought up at the last P&Z meeting, is that there were some of the commissioners that were concerned about the start time. Some of them work and weren't able to get there at 5 o'clock and wondering if they could be started at a little bit later time, either 5:15 or 5:30. We consider whether we would be able to do that. I don't know what is necessary if the commission can choose to change their start time.
Yeah, I think we're leaving that at your discretion, how
If we're leaving that
often you
open,
meet
then
and
we'll
what
pres-
time.
We'll present that to them at the next meeting and be able to give them that option to do that if necessary.
Perfect.
And then the other one other item that I did want to bring up, and I think it was brought up as we're changing some of our codes, because our zoning code has been in effect for a little over 3 years now, the new zoning code. We've got a significant number of zoning text amendments and scrivener's errors that needed to be brought forward. We've got a list compiled now that we have a new staff member that I believe has some experience to be able to help bring that item forward. We're planning on doing that no later than the August meeting. I'm hoping that we might be able to get it on the July meeting. It's doubtful, but for certain we'll have it on the August meeting. And I wanted to ask the one question. One thing that came up recently was whether or not we're going to amend the code so that conditional use permits are being recommended by the Planning Commission to the City Council, or we're going to keep it as it was changed in the zoning code when it was adopted 3 years ago, that the Planning and Zoning Commission has the authority to approve those conditional use permits. So I'll ask council.
I think council's still in discussion about that. Is that my understanding?
I don't believe council's made a decision on that. We
No.
need to bring that back to council to
Right.
make that change. So, yeah. So
And
we'll
the
still-
reason I asked was just if we wanted to include that in our text amendments, and so we won't do that at this time.
I know this is a topic that's come up, and as soon as they can get it agendized, we can start talking
It'll
about it, and we can make a decision, so.
We'll get that before council.
I just wanted to share another thing that is kind of not working in the favor of planning and zoning is they have publication requirements for every item that comes before the commission and before the council. And our newspaper is now only publishing once a week on Wednesdays. So the statute is not yet recognizing online publication as a valid publication. So that's something to keep in mind when Mike and his staff are trying to bring things quickly back before the commission and back before council. They have to publish it a couple of times, and it's no longer Wednesday and Friday and Sunday. Now it's Wednesday and the next Wednesday. So it kind of, delays and then agenda timelines and things like that. So I just wanted to share that with council that can also be not in our favor.
Well, and I appreciate that. As long as we are not the cog in the wheel and it's somebody else, I'm totally fine with that.
Is that going to change, Annie? Because you say for now they don't recognize online publication?
So Carl might be able to speak to it. There is a group, it's going to require a statute change. So I know there's a group of clerks, there's probably groups from the Attorneys Association as well. Another thing to add to your list of things to work with your legislators on. I don't know if Carl has more information on, they try to do it every year, I think, but it hasn't changed yet.
Yeah, there's been some attempts, but it's always lobbied hard by the newspaper industry to do that.
Maybe
to
you can work
stop
with
it.
our lobbyist on that?
Definitely, and that's something, it's on the list already, but
Oh,
it
okay.
would be next, it'd be the next legislative session before we could get to that. So, but definitely that's something that's on our radar. And it's something nationwide, as newspapers are becoming less and less frequent, that's something that a lot of jurisdictions are facing. So we have some ideas on how to approach it so that we can get past the larger large municipalities with the larger papers, gear it more towards smaller towns like, Kingman and others to be able to get past those large lobbies. So.
I wanted to ask you about the meeting date for P&Z, if that's ideal for the way we're kind of processing things and then having it go to council. Is the second Wednesday, or should it be the first week of the month and then the third week of the month is designated as a potential second meeting? Because if it's in the middle of the month, it wouldn't make sense necessarily to have a second meeting. Do you know what I mean? Is the schedule the most efficient schedule for P&Z meetings?
I think it's a matter of, we can move it to whichever, we'll look at that and see when it makes the most sense. But as far as the second, or basically the way it goes is as soon as it goes to planning and zoning, it'll be before the council as soon as we can meet those advertising requirements as well. So whether it's we can look at the second and whether the first is better or the second, we can look at those and see timing wise, because I think that's generally is how the planning and zoning meetings are set, is you have the commission, it's heard by the commission, they make a recommendation with enough, so then you have enough time to get it advertised and placed on the next council agenda available. So with the second meeting, you wouldn't have time to get it on the second
Until the
meeting of,
two more council meetings, basically.
Basically, yeah,
So
you'd
that's
be
why
on
I'm
the-
wondering if those should be adjusted somehow so that it's a little bit more efficient for both your requirements for posting it, but then also to get it to council
Look and see.
faster,
Yeah. we'll
if
look and
that's
see.
possible. I don't know, that's,
Also, did you say they're meeting on Wednesdays?
There will be no meeting tomorrow due to the publication issues that we had.
No, so I was gonna say, if they're meeting on Wednesdays, we should also look into changing the date that works best for the minor, whether it's a Monday or a Friday, so that they can make the Wednesday publication. But if you guys got that on the paper, that's fine with me.
Thank you, and really the way we're looking to address that is to add another week to our publication. We were, basically we were publishing it on the Wednesday, and then 2 weeks later the meeting was happening. Well, that only allowed for the 14 days, so basically by adding another week, we'll have more than enough time.
I have a question. Being that the standard is countywide, can we bypass the minor if we have to for those publications?
Well, I believe Carl can answer as far as which paper we have to use, but the standard, to my understanding, is just once a week as well.
Yeah, the standard's only once a week, and then the statute, and without looking at it in front of me, there are certain requirements about it being published within the city limits, so that's where you kind of run into some of those concerns. 'Cause
Is there a circulation requirement for that?
No, I believe it's
No?
just a publication requirement.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll just add one other thing, when we start talking about adjusting dates and times, that we have it set so all of the commissions, so if we look at adjusting something, it might affect other commissions and them having to adjust their date as well, as this is the only room that we have that meets our full like audio, video, being able to do hybrid. So just throwing that out there for consideration as well.
If I may too, that I was also reminded that some of the planning and zoning commissioners had indicated some concerns about having the meetings changed to Wednesday. They would have preferred to go back to Tuesdays. But like Annie just mentioned, it creates a scheduling problem because of the room being the only one that we have available. So, and like I said, we're having these challenges with having to publish our notices in plenty of time. That's why we're trying to plan far enough ahead so that we can get these items agendized and noticed in plenty of time so that they can be heard in a correct and proper manner, and that's what we're going to be working on. But still, we defer to the council about meeting times and days of the week that they want to have these meetings held.
So that was a recent change. I don't know if you know about that. It was a recent change so that the council could always have any additional meetings on Tuesdays and we could just keep Tuesdays open. But for me, I think P&Z is a priority, and so if that truly is an issue and they can't come on Wednesday, then we could go back to the way we used to do it, which was just more willy-nilly.
Yeah, we can do it however.
It's up to you guys. Okay. Yeah.
Definitely.
And that's what we'll do at our next planning and zoning meeting. When we meet in July, we'll go ahead and have a discussion about start times and days of the week that they would have a preference to meet, and see if there's other options other than Tuesday or Wednesday.
Good with planning and zoning? On to Municipal Utility Commission.
And as everybody's settling down, this is another one that's monthly or as needed, just so.
Quick question, are we discussing variance standards here, or is that a different discussion, different time?
That will be a different discussion. This is more overall on the
Housekeeping.
the commission, yeah. Basically, the
Got it.
deliverables from the commission, frequency and timing.
Okay,
But we will address that variance.
okay.
So, Tim, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Council, the Municipal Utility Commission meets once a month. We actually have our meetings at 5:30. The purpose of the commission is to hear requests for water service from new subdivisions and undivided parcels, as well as requests for variances from our utility regs. That's really the two functions they perform. The agenda is prepared by the engineering department and is driven by those requests. So if we don't have any requests, then they end up canceling the meeting. We've had one or two times where we didn't have a quorum and we canceled a meeting for that reason. We actually have 2 vacancies right now, and I think that's what forced the last quorum cancellation, but I think that's something that we're trying to get worked out. As far as I'm concerned, the way the meetings work and the agenda and the schedule and everything, it seems like it runs pretty smoothly. I would agree with everyone that there's probably some changes that need to be made to the regulations themselves, but the meetings work out pretty well.
Are you happy with having 7 members, or is it something, or do we need to suggest maybe cutting it down to 5? I mean, to facilitate,
I think if it becomes a problem trying to fill those 2 other vacancies, then yeah, we could probably go to 5 members. I don't know that we need 7, but I think that's something we probably ought to take up with the commission and see how they feel about it.
okay? So Carl, really does depend on the verbiage as you can see what you can investigate as far as all of these. So we have more flexibility on changing them depending on need.
Is there a possibility, Carl, that if we change that the ordinance could read, commissions could be 5 or 7?
Let me think about how that would work. I've never seen it done that way, so let me see what I can dig up on that.
Just a thought.
Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think part of the issue that you're running into as far as the language on 5 or 7 is if it's up to 7, then your quorum requirements would be
Yeah,
4.
and-
If it's established at 5, then your quorum requirements is only the 3. So I think that's where Carl needs that definition in order to determine
And
whether
I
or not
guess
there's
what
a
I'm trying to
quorum.
is internalize whether I can do something where, as determined by council, but I don't know how to do that. So I'm going to look and see if I can come up with something that gives that flexibility, but I'm struggling to get to that point.
Okay.
But if we might be able to make it where it's a lot simpler to make the changes, maybe isolate it from as Annie's point, it gets expensive when you're publishing a fairly large ordinance. We might be able to isolate it to a smaller section, which would make publication a little bit cheaper, if that makes sense.
Well, couldn't you put a minimum of 5 up to 7? And then depending on what your commission is comprised of is what your quorum is.
Well, and then that kind of goes back to exactly what Tim was saying. I'm going to see what I can do.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah. So a minimum of up to a certain,
yeah, I'm going to research that.
okay.
It'd be easier if you just told me to do 5 across the board. I know, I'm just making light.
All right, next we have Board of Adjustment.
Do you want to handle both at the same time, Board of Adjustment,
We
Board of
can do-
Appeals, because they're both, well,
One's,
oh, that's true, that's
Yeah.
true, you're right.
yeah.
I think as Tim had mentioned earlier, the Board of Adjustment meets when there's a challenge or an appeal to a decision that's been made by the zoning administrator, the planning director, on the way the code is being applied or being interpreted. We did have one case that did go to the Board of Adjustment. Since I've been here, it was shortly after I started, there was an appeal that was made on a setback issue on a residence in Rancho Santa Fe. We did hold that meeting when we were able to finally discover that we had enough members to be able to have a quorum and hold that meeting, so we did hold that meeting. However, they just don't happen very often unless there's an appeal or a variance application, something of that nature, where that board would have to convene. So in my experience, they don't meet very often unless it's one of those jurisdictions where there's a problem in the way codes are being interpreted. I don't think we have that here any longer.
So I just had a question on this. From the time that an appeal is filed, what's the time frame that it has to be heard? And I do recognize that you have to get a quorum to be able to have a meeting.
I'll defer to Carl, but I believe it's 30 days after the appeal is granted that we have to schedule the meeting and then hold it within a specified period of time.
So if you,
45 days.
45. So if you schedule a meeting in 45 days and you don't have a quorum, then you have to just pick another date, or do you have another time frame that you have to wait to schedule? Because you have to notice, right, for another meeting. So that's another 2 weeks or whatnot, 14 days? Yeah. Whatever that notice is, and then you have to wait for another quorum. So not necessarily is it always us, the delay, it sometimes can be the Board of Appeals that has the delay because we can't get a quorum.
This is a Board of Adjustment that we're referring to at this time, I believe. That's what we're talking about. But they both work in the same
Oh,
way.
I'm sorry, I was.
They both work in the
yeah.
same way. The
Okay, my
Board of
apologies.
Adjustment, we can talk about both of them at the same time if we need to. The Board of Adjustment hears zoning code matters primarily,
Right.
and the Board of Appeals is building code matters.
Right, right. But they operate in the same
But they operate
capacity.
pretty much in the same way,
And the
yes,
same
yes.
timelines and the
We have to
same
follow the
struggles
same-
for,
we
okay.
have to follow the same rules, the same time periods.
Okay.
And notice them in the same manner.
Okay, so we can interchange adjustment for appeals and it'd be the
And
same.
both of them are held on an as-needed basis.
Okay.
Whenever we have an appeal that's made, then that's when we would conduct one of those meetings.
Okay, I wasn't clear on the time frame that all that happened, so I appreciate the
And
clarification.
then fortunately, those are 5-member boards, so that we only have to have a quorum of 3, and generally, we should be able to make that.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And if I might chime in on this one, I believe, Carl, correct me if I'm wrong, but both the Board of Adjustments and the Board of Appeals do have the option of, rather than having a 5-person board, you could go the option of a hearing officer, correct?
Yeah, I was looking into that a little bit, and yes, you can do a hearing officer, but then you still have to have an appeal process. So normally, the Board of Adjustment, the appeals go to Superior Court. But if you have a hearing officer, there could be an appeal from the hearing officer that could go to the Board of Adjustment. But you could save that if you wanted to make that and have the council act as the Board of Adjustment. So if you wanted to have a hearing officer, it gets kind of convoluted when I explain it, but it's an
And a
option.
hearing officer is a member at large from the public that's applied, or do they have
what
to
you
have
would-
an official capacity to be a
You
hearing
would look
officer?
for somebody who has some training and understanding, because when you're, these two boards are quasi judicial, and they really need to be up to speed on what they can and can't do, the rules that are involved in this due process part. So that's why if you had a hearing officer, it wouldn't be just some random person off the street, but you definitely, per statute, has to be somebody who has some training and
Qualifications.
qualifications.
Okay. Thank you.
Which is funny because on your Board of Adjustment, it can be anybody off the street. But I would say me, needs to definitely craft a process, a book, basically on these two boards to outline the processes and how they can and can't do things, because they need to stay within their scope. So I think having a handbook, as well as anytime they do have to meet, the initial, I would say it every time you have an initial hearing, the first half hour would be me going over the process of how it works,
Okay.
just to refresh them. It would be very boring. Well, I could go longer, but it could be less. But I think because it's a very important process, and you have to make sure there's due process, because that's litigation. We're lucky that ours have been pretty good, pretty smooth. We don't have a lot of them, but you look at some other municipalities, there's a significant amount of litigation involving these.
Thank you. Couldn't hear me before, right? Appreciate the input on this. We've got a lot of work ahead of us. We'll get working on that. If you think of more things, please feel free to share them. We'll include them in what we're presenting to council. We'll work through. It sounds like process-wise, what we'll do is we'll return to each of the commissions, get these items on their agenda as far as meeting times, meeting frequency, and really get their input on how they can what they see as needs in order to make their commissions more effective. We'll pull that information together and then present that back to council as well. But I think initial action items, we'll be looking at number of people on the commissions, and then I have got it written down, but I forget what it was. The other item, meeting frequency. Thank you. just mentioned that. So we'll be working on those things. We'll get that back to council fairly quickly. And then, yeah, we'll work from there. But appreciate everybody's time, and let's turn it back over to you, Mayor.
Thanks, City Manager Tim. Appreciate it. Appreciate all of you. And of course, once again, council liaison and all the commissions that we're assigned to. Department heads, please communicate to our members of our commissions and boards how thankful we are for all the work they do. What more can we say? I mean, it's a volunteer thing. We oftentimes, sometimes it's a thankless job. And so we just want them to know how much we are concerned and that we appreciate all that they do. If there's no other comments or questions, council?
Just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
So switch as far as. Right. We did, didn't we?
Meeting end.
Oh, it has been over a year? Oh, well, I'm sorry, I dropped the ball. So it was a 2-year assignment this time.
So are we going to wait till the end of the year? Is that what you're saying?
We might as well, right?
Okay.
Because the election and all that, and so we might as well, I mean, if that's all right with everybody, leave
Yeah.
status quo the way it is.
Yeah, I've just been asked, so.
Okay. No, I appreciate you bringing it up, though. And once again, I apologize for not making that switch happen. So, okay, if there's nothing else, we are adjourned. Once again, thanks everybody for being here tonight.